365 Sports on this Thursday afternoon inside the TFNB, your Bank for Life studios. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for your time as we take you over the next almost 3 hours with a lot of different things from the Lou Holtz story and legacy to men's basketball and also much more. Got an interesting nugget from a basketball writer about school records and what happens with them now going forward with all the players who transfer and coaching changes. All right, Lou Holtz passed away yesterday. Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame head coach, put this up on his Twitter feed about getting to know Lou Holtz. Very special relationship. He welcomed me to Notre Dame. Family immediately offered me great support throughout our time together. Our relationship meant a lot to me as I admired the values he used to build the foundation of his coaching career: love, trust, and also commitment from Marcus Freeman.
I'm not surprised that they had such a good relationship. Lou pretty much had a good relationship with everybody but Ryan Day, I guess. But I told this story last week when we found out that he had gone into hospice. But I owe Lou. I'd never met him, but I do owe him at that point. I do owe him a debt of gratitude. I got to talk to Jerome Bettis for 20 minutes one time, just because I knew that we were going to potentially interview him. And I said, "Hey, can you give me a good Lou Holtz story?" I wound up not being able to be on that interview because it was scheduled while I was having surgery. But I did get to talk to him for 30 minutes. And most of it was just nodding my head as he just told story. Oh, and this one happened, and this one happened. And he did a great Lou Holtz impression. And he would, and Coach comes bursting in the training room, doing this. And it was one of the best, little short conversations I've had in my life. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Marcus Freeman was close with him.
There's been a lot of outpouring of support in the last several hours or so since the news came out yesterday while we were on air. So Marcus Freeman throwing his 2 cents in. I think it's nice to see all the outpouring of affection and love that people had for this man, and some that didn't like him for political reasons. I saw some of that too, or for, any number of things, I guess, during his career that maybe ticked them off. But pretty overwhelmingly, I think it was all positives, and I don't think there's anything nowadays that's going to get positive reaction across the board. There's always going to be somebody's like, yeah, but that one time he ran that red light, and that son of a bitch needs to burn. There's always like that kind of a thing. But with Lou Holtz, a lot of acclaimed people in the college football world that we talk about daily certainly sending their love, and not surprised the head coach of Notre Dame was one of those to do so as well. So, some nice words there for Marcus Freeman.
Craig, remember Harry Leatherwood, the Leatherwood family in Tyler?
Nope.
Jerome Bettis was one of his best friends. They went golfing together on various trips, and got one interview with him back a long time ago. But he and Jerome Bettis were great friends. Bettis, a very happy guy, great football player. With what he was at Notre Dame and also elsewhere in the NFL. Bobby Taylor, former Longview High School but Notre Dame All-American. He had just a quick comment. I sent a text to him. He's going to join us tomorrow and his thoughts on Lou Holtz. He told me this, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 weeks ago when the story came down that he was very ill, that he had a relationship with Lou Holtz that was incredibly special, and he'll join us tomorrow. Great man, sad day indeed. Bobby Taylor from Notre Dame, and of course a hell of a player, All-American player. I think he won the Jim Thorpe Award too at Notre Dame. Mark Mangino. Don't have a graphic for this one. I don't think we do. I'm not sure if we do or not. But about a month after I took the KU job, I got a call from Lou Holtz. He was witty and gave me good advice. The call lasted about 30 minutes. Before hanging up, he said to me, "Hey, by the way, the guy you interviewed for your wide receiver position yesterday, don't waste your time. I just offered him $100,000 more than you did." So just a little bit of a jab from Lou Holtz to the former Kansas head coach in Mark Mangino.
Well, it was nice of him to do that. Just let him know, hey, I'm going to just keep raising the stakes. Don't get in a bidding war.
When I first saw that, I was like, hey, they weren't allowed to publicly talk about paying players back in the day. And, of course, it was an assistant coach for $100,000, for more than Mangino and KU was able to offer him. This is from Scott Goodale. He's from Rutgers, but it's an interesting Rutgers wrestling coach. But he said, Lou Holtz said a story to him one time. "Your wife is not your best friend. Your dog is. Lock the two in the back of a trunk. Come back 2 hours later and see which one is happy to see you. R.I.P. Lou Holtz, the best motivational speaker I have ever listened to. So that's another one from Lou Holtz. The dog comes out like he probably needs some water or whatever, but he's all excited about it. But the other one, you're going to get your ass kicked by somebody.
Well, one of them is going to think it's a game if you do it the right way, and the other one will know it's not.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And then this here, the date of March the 4th, when Lou Holtz yesterday passed away, 2026, March the 4th of 2026, it is actually the same day that Newt Rockne was born in 1888. That's 365 days a year, so that's kind of interesting that Rockne, the great coach at Notre Dame, and then Lou Holtz, the last one to win a national title, the same day of March 4th of birth, and also Lou Holtz passing away. Any other stories or any other things you want to say about Holtz that you read over the last 24 hours or so?
No, not really. I mean, it's been cool to see some of the people sharing their anecdotes and everything, and their little words of wisdom they may have gotten, or their jokes like the dog and the wife thing. But no, I mean, nothing in particular. I think I kind of said it yesterday when it happened, that, talked about doing the Lou Holtz voice and, that kind of thing that I think a lot of people do or have done over the years. And remember when him and Mark May were kind of front and center, and then I don't know at what point, I don't even recall when they kind of moved to the side and others took their places. But yeah, they were an institution there in college football coverage for what seemed like a good bit of time. And he had some things that you can point out, I think probably like you can with anybody's life during his career, that weren't good or whatever. But I think it's been pretty apparent over the last almost an entire day now that, he left a nice impact, not only in college sports but also in his personal life. And I think it's a guy who was nearly 90 years old that passed away, so it's not like it's some shocking news. I think there was kind of even some ether in the air or some whispers that he was struggling health-wise, or that maybe this wasn't something that was totally unexpected. But I mean, it's sad anytime somebody leaves this realm, and I think at the same time he lived a very long life and accomplished a lot. So I'm not really feeling too sorry for him, other than just feeling sorry for his family who have to go through the emotional roller coaster of losing somebody close to them. So RIP to Lou Holtz. Thanks for your contributions to this sport of college football, and Godspeed.
He was 89. Paul, that's double your age now? Almost? A little less?
No, it's a little bit less. Double in a month and a half will be 92, because I'll be 46.
And then Craig, of course, could be double where you are plus more. And then with me, it's like, damn, that's only 22 years away from me. But that doesn't mean I'm gone at 89. I think I'm going to live to about 104. Here are the top 5 teams according to Torvik. It's one of those analytical metric type websites. The top 5 teams in the past the last month: Duke, Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and look at the Cincinnati Bearcats as they continue to roll. Just, of course, hammered KU, then lost to Tech, but then the last 5 games they've beaten UCF, K-State, Utah, Oklahoma State, BYU, and BYU's been in a free fall, but they are moving themselves in a really good position. They closed the year out against TCU this weekend.
If they win that game, they're still going to ride the bubble because of early on in the year. I remember a few years ago when A&M had that great closing stretch, and it's like, well, you got to put them in because they're playing the best right now. But they don't really do that anymore.
They used to have
this team's playing better than this one right now, so they have the same record, or like this one might be slightly better, but they've lost 7 of their last 10. So if we're going to pop somebody's bubble, let's pop the team that's not playing well and give it to the one. But that's not how it works anymore. Cincinnati's going to remain on the bubble because they started out so bad. But when they hit their stride, they really, really, really hit their stride. And so now they're probably going to have to make some moves in the Big 12 tournament. And who says that the way they're playing right now inside the Big 12 that they won't? But I do think they're going to have to make some moves, not win the thing, but at least knock out somebody who could win the thing.
Well, I'm excited to get into March Madness and have that here pretty soon. I mean, the conference tournaments are cool and everything. I think the Big 12 ought to be pretty electric, especially the floor. Although I don't know how much you guys have seen some bugs going on with the Big 12 floor thus far. But I'm looking forward to the actual electricity of the tournament itself and the do-or-die nature of it all, and seeing where these teams fall. Like, it's as somebody who's not, like, I guess, the biggest college basketball fan, I don't get as far in the deep end on, like, the analytics and the bracketology and all of that. I kind of just sort of sit back and learn from other people like Evan and various others who do all these metrics, the Torvik metric and all the people behind those sorts of things. And it's fascinating to see it. And it gets me excited to see these teams all actually having a lineup and clash with one another, because we've seen Arizona playing Big 12 teams, and that's been a lot of fun. But now, give me Arizona, Florida. Let's see what that looks like in, like, the Final Four. Or give me Duke, Michigan in the Sweet 16 or whatever. I'm ready for the stakes to raise, and we're almost there. But first we got to crown some conference champions and decide the rest of this seeding. But I think as far as those top teams go that you listed, that particular metric, I mean, Michigan, Arizona, Duke, and Florida, I mean, that very well could be your Final Four. I'd feel very confident putting a bet on that being the Final Four, so long as they're all in separate regions. But
I think that'll be the top 4 seeds.
I think it will be too. So there's those 4, and then you've got very likely, or very well could be your Final Four, which is those teams, ... and then Cincinnati. So that's pretty interesting that Cincinnati is there in that 5th spot, because the other 4, maybe the 4 best teams in the country by any of the metrics that you want to go by. So that speaks a lot of the run they've been on, the success they've had as of late, and unfortunately for them, can't guarantee anything beyond they have a chance to get into the big dance. But, I think they're going to have to make some noise in the Big 12 tournament, and they get, TCU first, I believe. Is that right?
Well, they play TCU this weekend.
Yeah.
So
that'd be first. So they get TCU first, and that is a team that just turned around and beat Texas Tech. So that won't be easy, but it is a winnable game, and we'll see what kind of damage they can do in the tournament and see if they can't earn themselves an invite to the dance. And if so, then what a turnaround for that program, because I know at various stretches there's been a lot of talk about perhaps having to make a coaching change or what the future looks like and things like that. So instead, that's quieted down, and now you've got a lot of people going, hey, Wes Miller, not so bad after all. He's actually, I know I believed in him. I mean, I know it was a little sketchy there for a while, but no, I totally thought we'd be in this position. So he's flipped the attitude, I think.
A month and a half ago, he was fired.
Yep.
He was absolutely fired. Right now, if you're Cincinnati and you fire him, you are absolutely insane, which I don't think that they are.
No.
I think he's proven enough to show that he's turned it around in that whatever weird crap was happening in those first few weeks. I remember reading Twitter during that Kansas game, and I think it was Chad Brindell. I think it was him. But he said, if you are watching this game wondering where the hell this team has been, join the party here in Cincinnati, because they said, we've seen this lineup, these things. We've seen them do this for small stretches, but not be able to take over games like they are right now. And man, they're really, really, really playing together. And part of that, like, to at least maybe bail Wes Miller out, because of the nature of transfers, they had a lot, like, they didn't think that Jizzle James was going to be part of the team this year because he had some personal issues and stepped away from the team. He came back later than everybody else did. They had a bunch of transfers like Baba Miller and others who had to come in and gel, and then it just kind of like, oh, well, Jizzle James is back. That's good. Let's get this together. So it took them a long time to build some chemistry, but now they've done it.
He apologized to the fan base straight up. You should be upset. And then since that time, John Cunningham, the AD, would not really comment on his future, and now has had a couple of different quotes about how proud he is of what they are doing and playing some of the best basketball in the country right now.
Yeah, I saw a conversation among some Cincinnati fans the other day, and you could tell they were just very conflicted, like happy about the run. Also, maybe had been some of those a month ago saying Wes Miller needed to be fired, and now we're like, well, damn, we can't do that. But now, the thing you need to worry about, or not worry about, but the thing I would – I guess be fearful of as far as the scenario goes would be for them to get this close and then like fall to TCU in the very first round of the tournament and basically just fall short of that, and this runs for not so. That being said, you did so well to cool down the seat, but then you didn't do enough to answer the question of whether this really is the brick and mortar foundation you want to build off of moving forward, right? You do just enough to make it interesting, but not enough to not squash all the questions about your job status. So then you roll into next year right where you started, and that would be the frustrating end game for Cincinnati. So hopefully for their sake and their fans' mental health, they can go on a run, get themselves in the tournament, and then they feel okay, cool, we made a real mark here. This wasn't just flirtatious with getting there and getting our hopes up only to fall short of that. We'll find out here in the coming days what they're able to do.
They have also had, and this is not to take away from anything they're doing, but their schedule lightened up a little bit in the Big 12. But is it ever lightened up actually in the Big 12?
Well, they've got a couple of top 25 wins. They've got a couple, though, but they got a lot of top 25 losses as well. So, no, they don't have a resume as far as ranked games go. I won't get into the quadrants and all that kind of deal. That's for you guys and for Evan and all of that. But, yeah, they had the win over Iowa State back in mid-January. They had the win over Kansas here recently. But, yeah, they lost to Tech. They lost to Houston. They lost to Arizona. They lost to UCF. They lost to Houston again. So they have not put together a real strong record. Lost to Louisville earlier in the year. So they're probably 2-5 or 2-6 in top 25 games. And that's just one of the many metrics. But, that is part of the reason why they're not just some rock solid, they'll be in the tournament right now.
Yeah, and BYU, of course, who they just beat, no longer a part of the top 25 because of where they are. A quick note, Sam Kahn will join us today from theathletic.com. He and a couple of the other co-writers of theathletic.com wrote 2 different long stories about the transfer portal, the winners and losers, not so much, but also some notes from staff members at various schools from Group of 5 to the Power 4 on who they thought maybe did the best job in the portal in one way or another. Michigan, this is not a graphic, Michigan, Duke, Illinois, Florida, and Purdue, and Texas Tech are the 6 teams who are in that what they call top 10 offensive efficiency, top 35 defensive efficiency as potential national champions. Why does this matter? 11 consecutive years, the national champion has been among the top 10 in offensive efficiency and top 35 in defensive efficiency. 11 consecutive years. Those are the 6 teams that are in that club right now. And Arizona, Wisconsin, and Vanderbilt are just outside, either offensively or defensively, but right there on the edge.
Well, imagine that. Some really good teams are really good at offense and defense. I think that's what it speaks to more than probably anything is you're a well-rounded team. Then you got a pretty good chance to be pretty good. But, yeah, that bodes well for those names that you mentioned. And, that's a pretty good pool that you'd say, all right, I'll take my money and place it on this group of teams versus perhaps the field. Maybe not. Maybe there's too many missing to lean too far that direction. But – yeah, that sounds about right. I think Tech and their offensive efficiency is what you've got to watch moving forward, but maybe defensively as well. JT Toppin is a pretty huge loss for them. I was going to say colossal, and I almost felt like that was too strong. Maybe not, though. Maybe not.
Eighth offensively, so they're right inside of that. 29th defensively, but, yeah, Toppin also, remember, averaged a double-double, rebounding, et cetera, and was a hell of a player. So that is one that kind of makes – maybe that wears out that number at some point.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where that number – or if there's enough data to really see a difference yet in how many games he's missed and whether that's fluctuated or not. And just the other night with their loss, Grant McCasland was talking about, the two-way player that JT Toppin was and how that affected them on the boards and how that affected them in their offensive game plan, that now you need guys to step up, and originally you had players just shooting lights out from 3, and you're like, oh, well, hell, we're just going to win by just throwing it up and scoring every night, but we all know that's not sustainable, and sure enough, you realize that's not sustainable. So who's going to be the extra playmakers that you now need to step up and fill that void? I think that's what he's figuring out. I think them having a bye allows them a little extra time to maybe figure that out even further. But, Texas Tech's a really good team even without him. But I do think that you saw the other night, like, okay, this is where they might suffer a little bit, and this is why he was such a huge loss for them.
JT Toppin's bad nights are not bad nights by maybe a lot of other players, same metrics, right? So if JT Toppin, because he's such a complete player, has a game where he's not scoring as much, he's so good on the other end when it comes to rebounding and all those other things, defense, he's so much better at that stuff that it makes, like, it can kind of, okay, you didn't score 10 points, but can you stop 8 points from being scored? And then you've kind of negated that. You have 4 great defensive possessions that you get a rebound, you get a steal, you get a block shot. I'll compare him to Davion Mitchell. They called Davion Mitchell off night, not because he could rain down threes all the time. Sometimes when he had bad offensive games and he wasn't scoring, he could just absolutely, he was worth, 10 points less for the other team because their point guard or their best player couldn't score.
He had 19 double-doubles, 17 double-doubles, Paul and Craig, and he had 5 of the games where he had 8 or 9 rebounds, would have been a double-double, never scored, I think, 7 points in an early game against Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, so there we are with that. That's an impressive list. So Tech, despite the loss of Toppin, at least analytically, and then you wonder about exactly what they could have done had Toppin been able to remain healthy. Houston last night, Baylor led most of that game, and you knew it was coming, and Houston wore them down, and Houston had a run of 13-0 real early in the second half, and eventually won the game at home. It was senior night, and Kelvin Sampson with his guard, Emmanuel Sharp, they were so close to a national title last year. Sharp back this year. Look at we don't have to play the whole thing, Brandon, but the early part of when Sampson introduced Emmanuel Sharp. There were other seniors in that event, or in that, pregame. Sampson, you can kind of just see him like almost shove his head right into his chest.
He cradled his head
Yeah.
onto his chest, and you can see him trying to be like, I got a game in a minute, don't let it go. But he has affection for Emmanuel Sharp, and Emmanuel Sharp is someone who is a do-it-all player. He's an absolute do-it-all player, and it's crazy how good he can be in short stretches when he gets hot. The Kansas game last year where he scored 12 points in about 40 seconds, he's that kind of guy who can get that hot, and he's also a 110% effort kind of a guy, so that when he's not hitting those threes, he makes up for it in other ways for you. So yeah, he's a glue guy player for them, absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool to see. Kelvin Sampson seems like he'd be a really fun coach to play for.
I'd love
very
it, yeah.
demanding.
I would say like 5 days a week, yes. 2 days a week, they're probably like, oh, damn, coach.
Yeah, very demanding, but in the way that a coach needs to be. And I think you got a little bit of those 3-pointers you were talking about last night from Sharp. Had a handful of those and nearly 20 on the night. They beat Baylor, and they now move into the tournament. Still got to play Oklahoma State, but I don't think you really fret too much about that poo-pooing anything. You've already locked in the 2 seed for KC. So, nice win by Houston on senior night. Fleming's was really good for them again, and they're a really salty team, man. They weren't on that list you mentioned earlier, but they're in that collection of teams like the Floridas and Michigans that you think can go and make a really deep run, and really the collection of teams in the Big 12 that – unfortunately, here in the last few weeks has had like 2 or 3 teams kind of fall to the wayside. I mean, BYU has completely cratered in light of the Saunders injury. And then you've got Texas Tech, who's been able to keep their head above water, but they're not quite what they were with Toppin out. And so we'll see. Kansas is so damn up and down. It's hard to tell what to really think of them moving into a tournament where it's a one-and-done situation. Like, you'd think that, all right, balls to the wall, it's Darren Peterson or nothing. Like, and not that they can't win without him, but like, there's not going to be any checking yourself out of games. Like, it's all or nothing. But at the same time, they're still very perplexing as far as how all of that works and what all is really going on. So I don't feel great about them, even though at their best, yeah, you feel great about them. But, like, are you going to get their best every time? So that leaves you with a Houston and Iowa State and who am I missing? Arizona, obviously, that are all still feeling pretty solid. Those others can make some noise, but they've lost a little bit of their luster here recently. But, yeah, Houston's still one that I feel great about moving into March.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think on Kansas, that the Darren Peterson thing, I think that's kind of done. I think that they've worked their way through that.
Great. It only took the entire season.
I think
Cool.
I think they've worked their way through that. Overall, I think he's mentally worked his way through it. But again,
he can see the end of the road. That's why.
It wasn't Darren Peterson. He didn't play well the other night. But it wasn't just Darren Peterson.
He was 3 of 17
But, yeah, it wasn't just him, though. Everybody was bad. Like, Bill Self came out and said the effort was crap. Like it was really bad. So that was that. When it goes to Houston, yeah, absolutely. And especially if they're going to get double figures out of Flemings, Uzan, and Sharp in the postseason, that's a tough night to beat for them, because then you have Kristen Knack and you have Joseph Tugler who can fill in the gaps there, but are also really good rebounding and playing defense. So if those three can all kind of change off things, and Kingston Flemings is a super fun player to watch.
Another freshman.
Another freshman, and another guy we get to see in the Big 12 for the next 3 weeks, and then see ya, or a month, or whatever it is, and then he'll be gone. But off to the NBA. But yeah, I think Houston's certainly a team that can win it all.
Kelvin Sampson, after the game, when he was talking about the win against Baylor, he told the fan base, "We've been here a long time. We ain't going anywhere. Don't sleep on Houston as long as he's there." And I know his son will probably take over whenever that time comes. Houston basketball was good before they joined the Big 12. They're just as good, if not better. And Sampson just kind of throwing that nugget out there just to remind fans, hey, it's senior night, so the last time they'll be at home this season.
And don't worry, Baylor fans, it's almost over. It's almost over. This season of
that was it. That mirrored their whole season.
Here's the good news for Baylor fans, if there is good news. They get a huge jump on the offseason when it comes to scouting, because everybody kind of knows who's going to be in the portal and all that. So they can scout that out and maybe have a more rock-solid plan of plan A, B, and C, and when people tell you no or disappear.
They got to find out, Yesufu, and then also Carr, do they come back? And then you build around them if either or both do.
Yeah. Those are the priorities, and I think you go to the Big Ten if you're Scott Drew and you get one of the templates for contracts like Damon Williams had to sign, and you make sure that there is no Rob Wright situation this offseason that completely throws you for a loop, and you ensure that if Cam Carr and Yesufu are going to come back, that they are locked in, and it's not, we're preparing for a majority of the offseason like you're going to be here, and then you're suddenly not here. And now suddenly we have to go to an empty, barren portal to find not just a guy, but like a replacement or two or three for a freaking star. Like that's what he had to do. You weren't just like we needed a guy who can rebound.
There was no lateral move they could make.
No, there was no
with Rob Wright.
No.
There was no lateral move. Now, early in the portal there were some lateral moves if Rob Wright had been on the same thing, but there was no lateral move. And this is not a knock on Obi Agmem coming in. I mean, he certainly hasn't matched it, but who has? But like it was, they got down, and he was one of like the 4 guys they could even get that would even get close to the kind of production they needed at that position.
Yeah, so I don't know how far down the road all that Rob Wright stuff got. It got into this whole like back and forth between Baylor and BYU fans. I lost interest very quickly in that whole conversation. But just the devil's in the details of that deal that you get them to sign. But yeah, that is the first priority you would think for Scott Drew, is to lock down a couple of your standouts and then start building around them. And I think if you do that and you get active in the portal pretty quickly, I don't see any reason why you can't bounce back and be much better next year. And I think having Doug McNamee in there, I'm not going to act like he's Superman. We have yet to see what all he's actually going to be able to do, how he hires people or whatever. But I do think Drew will have a great base and foundation to work with. And there's no reason that they should not be much improved next year. And there's no hot seat to speak of. There's no seat to talk about, but they need to be better, a lot better next year. They can't miss the tournament again. This year, understandable to an extent, to a degree, but yeah, you got to get your ducks in a row and bounce back in a major way next season.
Yesufu and Carr, in some projections, are at the end of the first round. Not all, but in some, are inside that first round. And the one player that I like who's coming back, and they had some other injuries, but was Williams, the freshman point guard. I thought at times he looks like he's physical enough to take that role. Obviously has to grow up a little bit as far as just experience. I like the way he played through a lot of the adversity they had this season.
Well, you better have your NIL set up correctly. And that's going to be on Doug McNamee to make sure that happens, because I would think that there's already quite a few schools that are probably in Carr's DMs or Yesufu's DMs or any of the players that are seemingly worthwhile to go and try to pick. They are getting attention. So, yeah, hopefully you've got your ducks in a row and you can get these guys situated and start building around them for next year. And I think if you do and you get that done, then you feel pretty good about where you are. You feel great about where you are compared to where you started off this year post the Rob Wright news.
Yeah, and I think, and we said this before, but just for people who want to know, there is not a better situation for Scott Drew, AD-wise, in protecting that basketball roster than Doug McNamee being the AD. He's not going to let them get beat for a silly reason. If it comes down to it, it's going to be like they're just not going to go that high. But it's not going to be a silly reason.
Well, I mean, he's going to try to do everything he can to help, but you still have to make sure that the guys want to come here. And Drew has to get that magic back to where, that feeling of joy and all of that. It was great when you're winning 25 or so games and winning a national title, making a deep run. And Scott is a competitive dude. He will work on that too. Real quickly on Arkansas freshman Darius Acuff, and then Sam Kahn from theathletic.com will join us here in just 1 second. This is Darius Acuff. Now, I've been watching his stats and flaring up. You hear about the freshman inside the Big 12 with the Bansa and obviously Peterson, among others. Man, this kid's putting up numbers. 20 points plus 5 assists per game, 40-plus three-point percentage, and also 3 in a turnover assist-turnover ratio. No Division I player of any class has ever done that in a season, minimum 75% of the games that their team played.
Okay, I still think Darren Peterson's the number one pick for a lot of different reasons. But if it's not him, and this is no offense to A.J. DeBansa, I do think it should be Acuff.
And that was against UT last night, who had been playing well.
I think his production is just so immense. But he will, there's, the top 4 picks, in my opinion, are set. It's going to be, in some order, Peterson, DeBansa, Acuff, and Boozer. Those are the 4 who are going to be the top 4 picks. And then after that, we'll see.
Sean Miller just praised that. We're not going to have time for it, Brandon, but Sean Miller said he's as good a freshman. He goes, I've been doing this 34 years, as good a freshman. Not trying to say he was over, like I just saw him, as good a freshman as he's seen in his 34 years as a head coach. And he's been at Arizona, of course, and also now at UT. He's also, Acuff, the only Southeastern SEC players to average 22 points and 6 assists in a season. Darius Acuff Jr. and Pistol Pete Maravich. That's pretty good territory right there. When we come back, Sam, you want to?
No.
Sam Kahn from theathletic.com and more. And this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress is my dentist, and they are where I go to get any of what I need done when it comes to dentistry. I didn't get to the dentist very often for a few years, and it's like then, you're scared to go back. You're going to have a cavity or 2. You're going to have something else that's wrong. You're worried about, okay, they're going to have to put needles in the roof of your mouth because you got to have the tooth pulled. I was scared to go back because I knew I had not been doing what I needed to do, but not enough really preventative type dental work. I went back to Steve Childress during the year of COVID, 2020. He has been fantastic. Went by and saw him again for just a checkup about a month or so ago. His business is rolling. They have all sorts of dentists. He's not the only one. They have hygienists and more. They are fantastic at what they do. I trust them with my dental work, and at 67 almost years old, that's more important for me now than ever before. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing.
What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%.
Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire
We
panels.
have pallets of batteries.
What about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
It has been a while because, well, football season ended and he needed to go spend time doing more than just writing and grinding every day. But even though he was out of pocket for a little bit, he was writing along with many others on staff at theathletic.com. Sam Kahn, it's Kahn time, joins us on 365 Sports. Sam, you, Antonio, and Manny and others, you put together 2 big portal-type stories. One of them, Transfer Portal Confidential, best classes, underwhelming teams, favorite quarterbacks, and more. And the other one, tampering, roster budgets, January window, and more. Of all of what you saw and what was said to you, which kind of jumped out at you maybe as a surprise?
Probably how wide the variance is in terms of roster budgets. We asked multiple staffers across both the Power 4 conferences and the group of 6, how much of a roster budget does your team need to be competitive in your conference? And when I say competitive, I mean be in the mix for the conference championship game, back half of the season. And the range on those was really wide. You had, some in the ACC and the Big 12, some of them saying as low as 15 million, and you saw some say closer to 25, and then in the SEC, the Big 10, you saw some 35s and $40 million. And so the fact that the range, I guess maybe it's not surprising, but it was eye-opening that you could have teams in the power conference thinking that on one end of the spectrum you can succeed with a roster budget in the low 8 figures, whereas some others are thinking, no, we've got to get at least 30 to have a shot at winning it. So I think it also illustrates just how kind of opaque all this is, and we still don't have transparency in this front, so we don't know what every team's roster budget is. We have guesses and intuition and intimation and all this other stuff, but we don't really know for sure unless someone wants to come out and tell us, which every now and then some of them do, which we appreciate. But it's very much shows what a guessing game it is at this point for teams that are trying to construct championship rosters.
Sam, one of the things I was kind of surprised about was how candid they were about tampering and how their response was, there was a couple that was like, look, I don't want to do that. And I'm not totally sure they were being 100% transparent with you on that one. But there were so many that's like, look, I mean, if you're not tampering, I mean, you're just putting yourself behind the 8 ball, and there's no specific rule that, there's real punishment for. So I'm going to kind of have to keep doing it until they figure out how.
Yeah, and I think there's varying degrees to this. You're not tampering necessarily for everybody. And that's why we phrased the question the way we did. Can you acquire successfully priority transfers without tampering? Meaning the guys that you really want, the guys that are top of your board. And for most of them said, yeah, it's really hard to get them without doing it in some form or fashion or doing some advanced work. I do think there is a little bit of caution from some folks just because of what happened recently with Dabo Swinney and Pete Golding and the accusations that Dabo put on Golding and Clemson and Ole Miss and all that stuff. And I think that's in the back of the minds of some. It's like, oh, well, what if another coach goes scorched earth and goes public with some of this stuff? But on the other hand, I think there's some pragmatism from these coaches that know that until we have somebody actually get popped and somebody have real consequences, that there's really no incentive to stop doing it. And I think that's one reason why I think a lot of people are going to watch what happens, if anything, with Clemson and Ole Miss, because if Clemson has the evidence that it says it does, then it's probably a little bit of an easier case to adjudicate. And if that goes without any significant punishments, then I think then you lose the deterrent. The one thing that I did find interesting, and this is kind of off topic from that, but a little bit related, was when the NCAA came out recently and said that if you add anybody outside of the portal, your head coach is going to get suspended for half the season. And that was what one Power Forward general manager I talked to said. He said, hey, if you want to put a stop to tampering, you know how to do it. Start suspending the head coaches for games. If you suspend a head coach for 4 games or 6 games or whatever it is, I can promise you it's going to stop in a hurry, because that's a real consequence that affects your team this season, and it will make you think twice about doing it. But to your point, Paul, it is really hard at this point to get the guys you want without tampering. That said, it is not impossible to get guys. I would say your rotational guys, your depth guys, you can very much get those guys without tampering. And that's the kind of the sense I got. Is like if it's a top guy, a 7-figure guy, it's going to be almost impossible to get him without tampering. But if it's a guy that's a little bit further down the depth chart and just somebody that you need to fill a spot, a lot easier to get those guys without having to do that.
Sam, Texas Tech, I mean, no surprise. You'd expect them to be mentioned as having one of the strongest classes, but they're mentioned throughout here from various coaches at various leagues, not only for spending the money, but getting specific guys that look like they could be difference makers for them once again. It's going to be incredibly difficult to go like 100% like they did last year, you would think. But, man, people have taken notice, and it's impossible not to at this point, right?
Yeah, no, and it's a kudos to that front office, James Blanchard, the GM, and that staff, that they clearly have a plan, and they identify the guys early. They get a hold of them early, get them on campus, and they're able to close the deal in most cases. And to get edge rushers like Adam Trick or Trey White, who are both of the Group of 5 level, but very productive, twitchy, future NFL type guys. That's the formula they did last year. Was, hey, go get a David Bailey, go get a Lee Hunter, go get a Romello Height, guys who have the NFL profile that are going to be draft picks eventually. And when I've talked to Blanche, the philosophy that he has is, if an NFL scout thinks this guy is going to play in the league, then we probably should take him. Mm-hmm. Like if he's good enough to play at that league and they're already getting that type of attention, then that's somebody that we should have an eye on. And so, but is it possible to replicate what they did in 2025? I don't think so. I think hitting the way they did on Bailey, Hunter, and Height, I think that's really hard to replicate year in and year out. But I think what helps push this class over the top is that you got a dynamic quarterback in Brendan Sorsby that fills a major need on the other side of the ball. And so maybe you don't need to be as dominant defensively if you can get a little bit more dynamic play out of the quarterback position. Not to say that Baron Morton didn't give us something, like I thought he was good, but Sorsby brings another element with his rushing ability, his ability to move and gain yards on the ground and move the chains with his feet. I think that's going to help a lot. And if you can have a maybe not the same type of defense, but maybe a somewhat in the vicinity, a shouting distance of the kind of defense you had last year, and you're able to get some more offensive with Sorsby, the backs you got returning, you add a Malcolm Simmons and some of the returners they got on the offensive side, I think it still has a chance to be a Big 12 title contender and a college football playoff contender again.
A lot of people mentioned Adam Trick, the linebacker from Miami of Ohio, as one of the keys. Obviously, Sorsby is like the gem, but mentioned Trick, who I think maybe got a little bit overlooked when he made the decision to move on to Texas Tech.
Yeah, it's funny because when he first put his name in, or when he announced in mid-December that he was going in, there was a lot of recognition right away, just based on his pure production and his size profile. He's 6'4", 245, that he was going to be a seven-figure guy in the portal. And then you saw some bigger names come in at the edge rusher position over the coming weeks. And like you said, it seems like people kind of forgot about Adam Trick. And then, Texas Tech had hosted Wendell Gregory early in the process. Wendell ended up going to K-State. Obviously, they got Trey White, they got Austin Remain, they got a lot of other names before they got Trick in the boat. And then when they got Adam Trick, it's like, oh, yeah, Adam Trick was still out there, and they ended up landing him. And I think he's a guy that is, again, going to have a pretty big impact pretty quickly. And I think combining him and White together with some of the guys that got coming back as well, I think it's going to give him a really good pass rush, no doubt.
Sam, who do you feel made themselves better in the portal, Texas or A&M?
I think it's Texas. I mean, it just from a sheer impact player perspective, not to say that A&M didn't, because I mean, we ranked, I ranked the portal classes, and I had A&M 7th in our, or in the top 10, 6 maybe. I think they were 6th, and we had Texas in the top 5. But I thought Texas really went for it. They really swung for the fences. And I was just watching earlier this week as I'm going through and looking back at some of these guys. Like, I was just watching the running backs, Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers all over again. And I was starting to think, like, man, putting these two in Sark's offense, whew, like, there's a lot of possibilities there. Like, Smothers, more your every down back type. Raleek Brown, a guy you can move around. You can move him in the slot or out wide. You can motion him in the backfield. You can have him return kicks and punts on special teams. Cam Coleman, for my money, best receiver in the portal, probably best player in the portal. And so then you think of him on the other side of Ryan Wingo. So now you've got Ryan Wingo, you got Cam Coleman, and then you got Hollywood Smothers, and you got Raleek Brown to worry about. Oh, and you got Arch Manning's legs on top of that. Once he stops throwing a hand to all these guys, he can take off himself. And then you get Melvin Siani to book in with Trevor Gooseby at offensive tackle. And now you've got, I think, 2 future NFL tackles on the offensive line. So I look at that, and that's without even touching the other side of the ball, which I thought they did some solid work there too. But I just thought Texas really went for it. Like, you could tell they're kind of pushing their chips in this year to make sure they get into the playoff and contend for a national title.
So there's a lot of teams mentioned for all of the questions that you asked, but kind of on the underwhelming, Florida, one that got mentioned there a couple times. There was a Big 12 staffer that wasn't too impressed with Baylor, Kansas State. Just kind of what did you glean from, I guess, the more negative, sort of response about, like, what teams maybe got a lot of guys or got some headlines, but people aren't quite convinced that it was actually something that's going to amount to much when it comes to on the field next season?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, did you fill the needs that you had? That's the number one part. Or if you're in a situation where you have a lot of resources, did you take some guys that really made you open your eyes or turn some heads? North Carolina was a team that came up multiple times when we talked to guys about a lot of head scratching about, okay, you let Gio Lopez walk and you replace him with Billy Edwards. I think a lot of questions about that. Alabama was one that got mentioned because they had their biggest need coming into the portal was running back, and they didn't fill it. They had Hollywood Smothers committed before Texas swiped him, and they end up getting a back, kind of a depth back later in the process. And they've got some guys coming in the pipeline from a youth standpoint and recruiting standpoint, but to not fill that need, to know how rough they were in the run game last year and not get an impact back with as many as they were out there, and you clearly targeted one and had one in the boat before you got him signed, and did not end up being able to do it for a program of that caliber. I thought I was a little bit surprised. And also just some of the linemen that they took, I thought they went heavy offensive, defensive line, but they took a lot of offensive linemen who are on the younger side, who are high upside without a lot of experience. And Alabama's kind of a program that I feel like probably should be able to get more proven guys at that, especially at that position. But we are living in a post-Saban world over there. Florida was one. I don't know that I agree with everybody on Florida for the ones that weren't impressed with them. And I think the reason is I think there are a lot of people waiting for splash takes from them in Florida. And I thought they had a few. I thought Aaron Philo was a good one. I thought getting Eric Singleton from Auburn, the receiver, was a really good one too. But I think the biggest thing for Florida was retention. They retained Jaden Baugh. They were able to keep some guys out of the portal that were very much targets from other programs. And I think there's probably a little bit of wait and see for them. But overall, it's when we ask, okay, who underwhelms you, I think a lot of staffers we talk to think to, okay, who has a lot of resources, didn't really take a guy that wowed you, or who took somebody that makes you scratch your head, or who didn't fill a need that you needed to. That's kind of where the answers seem to lie when we go down that road.
Actually, I think Florida did well to get maybe some tougher Army Ant type guys that match John Sumrall's personality, because they already have 5-star studs on that team. They just needed, like, Aaron Philo is a nice pickup, but if you listed all the quarterbacks that were out there and told just your random message board Florida fan, would you want Aaron Philo, they'd probably have to talk themselves into him compared to everybody else. And that's just kind of putting it mildly. But I think actually what John Sumrall's done is maybe shore up that team a little bit more from a physicality and a personality standpoint, given they were kind of so scattershot the last 2 seasons.
No doubt, and I think the thing with Philo, obviously the reps aren't there yet. You know, he hasn't had a lot of time, but you have the continuity. You know, he's following his offensive coordinator, Buster Faulkner. That's the other reason I like the Singleton ad, was that, hey, he's reuniting with an offensive coordinator that he broke out with. But to your point, with the rest of the guys they took, I think of a guy like a TJ Shanahan or DK Kalu or some of these other guys that are on there. I think you're right in that they are guys that match John Sumrall's personality. And from a physical standpoint, from a toughness standpoint, you know what his teams look like based on what he's done at Troy and at Tulane, where he's won at a high clip in both places. You know what his teams look like, and I'd be shocked if Florida doesn't look like a tough team that is a hard out for anybody that plays this year.
We had Coach Fritz on yesterday, and obviously I know you are very fond of the University of Houston Cougars. I did see a couple of nuggets about how they felt like Houston did a very good job in how they pinpointed people, got who they needed in a very quiet way, perhaps.
Yeah, this is not a program that is going to outbid a bunch of other teams, and they're not going to have the deepest pockets in terms of getting transfer portal guys. But I think they do really good in finding fits. I think of a guy like Mekhi Hughes, the transfer running back who went to Oregon, who was really productive at Tulane, found himself lost on the depth chart at Oregon. Everyone's kind of forgotten about him, and then he ends up back at Houston. I think that has the chance to work out really, really well because he's back with a staff and a coach that's familiar with him and an offensive scheme. And so I think that one could take off. I thought overall they did, like you said, a solid job of filling some needs. Jaden Yates, they brought some bounce back guys, which is a state of Texas and definitely a University of Houston strategy, is go get some guys that are from the state of Texas that maybe went somewhere else and then they want to come back home. Patrick Overmeyer, the tight end from UTSA, I thought was a good take. Demarion Thomas from Oklahoma State, I thought that was a good one too. There's a lot of, they're not going to grab headlines with who they got, but when you combine what I thought were solid additions with the retention, they retained their quarterback and their best receiver, Connor Wegman, the quarterback, and Amari Thomas, receiver, both guys who would have absolutely commanded big money in the portal. I thought when you combine the retention with some of the guys they got, I think you really got a team that I think you really got to keep an eye out for in the Big 12 this year, because obviously after winning 10 games last year, I thought they only got better this offseason, and I think this is the team that really is going to make some noise in the conference.
I don't know if anyone's going to be where Tech was when they jumped into it last year, but Kentucky got a lot of love. I don't know how much of it is how much they've spent. They, of course, flipped the quarterback from Notre Dame, Nebraska to where they are. With a coaching change, your thoughts about that as a team that you would maybe not expect to be a part of this conversation?
Yeah, they ended up in the top 10 in our portal rankings, and this is one that every time they took somebody, you kind of looked and you're like, wow, I really like that. You know, it's Will Stein and his GM Pat Biondo really hit the ground running right off the bat here. You mentioned Kenny Minchie, the quarterback who was committed to Nebraska. They were able to close on him and get him signed before Nebraska was. That was a big win. They got C.J. Baxter, the running back from Texas. That was a big win. Colton Price, the offensive lineman from Baylor, I thought was a really good addition. Lance Hurd, an all-conference caliber offensive tackle from Tennessee. Tegra Shabola, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. Like, it wasn't just headline names. It was also they got impact players at really important positions. You know, because you mentioned the quarterback. They lost Cutter Boley, who ended up transferring to Arizona State. I thought they got really did a good job on the offensive line and even on defense as well. And I thought overall, it's hard when you look at their schedule. It's really hard to expect that they're going to be a huge surprise team this year. But you can certainly see with what they're doing in the portal and some of the energy and buzz around that program with Will Stein in his first year there, I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic if you're in Lexington, you're a Kentucky fan. I know Stoops had him going for a while, and then it kind of tailed off here at the end. But I think Will Stein's going to get some excitement rolling back for Kentucky football.
Thank you, man. Good to see you again. Go take that break. I know you have a spring break coming up with the kids. Enjoy that. We'll talk to you again in a little bit, okay?
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Sam Conn, theathletic.com. That dual stories on athletic.com, the website. In many ways, angles, and a lot of it's feedback from people on staff about what they saw. And from what I saw, it was like 50-50 split when it came to tampering. Some goes, if you don't do it, you're going to fall behind. And some said they actually were able to do what they needed to do in the portal without the tampering. At least that's what they said. So I don't know. And the suspension of coaches in games will be that would neuter that a little bit, but I'm not sure how they could enforce it.
Yeah, it's one of those types of articles that I think is among the best stuff that The Athletic does now, and I enjoyed reading that, and a lot of split opinions. Interesting to get kind of thoughts from the various coaches in each league, and then outside the Power Four, if you will, as well. And I saw one of the G5/6, I guess, guys talking about, we were competing with Baylor and Iowa State for guys a lot. So, take that how you will. And then another person talking about how Tech overspent, but they got quality guys, and it's not a surprise they're going to spend more than anybody. But that even though they might have gone a little high on some guys they didn't need to, they got who they needed to. So I don't think you care if you're Cody Campbell and company and any other donors that you're raising the prices so long as you get the guy, and especially if that's what it takes to get said guy. But TCU was mentioned a couple times in there. Really intrigued by Jaden Craig and how he translates at the quarterback spot. But again, it's Sonny Dykes, so he knows quarterbacks. Baylor's mentioned a couple times in there of we're the G6 coach talking about we're competing with them in Iowa State a lot, but then there was also some praise for getting Lagway. So it's just kind of all over the place. It's really in the eye of the beholder, I think. There's people split. I think there were some that were like, LSU did a bang-up job, and then like 2 lines later it's like, I think LSU didn't really do as much as people think they did. So people have different opinions, and we'll see how it all comes out in the wash here in a few months, but it is some interesting off-season food for topic, and getting the thoughts of coaches that are actually in the midst of this, if their feet and fingers in the ground, having to go up against these schools to try to land these guys. Who better to talk about who did well and not? And how many people discussed that they had some contracts already done before players even entered the portal?
Yeah,
that was one of the things. We knew that.
We knew that, but when you hear somebody say it, you're like, okay, well. They were all anonymous, so it wasn't, they did this all under that guise. So I'm sure there's a message board out there going, I can guarantee you this coach is from here and this coach is from here, but who even knows? I do appreciate, at least from our perspective as broadcasters, is very educational, and it lets you know how at least comfortable coaches are kind of admitting when they can, this is how it is. And part of this might be you really think that things need to change. So, yeah, I'll go off the record and say this is how it is, and it's absolutely insane. But as long as it exists, everybody's going to do it. So, I mean, there's no, Clemson and Ole Miss, like Sam said, is going to be one of the first test cases to, is this a legitimate thing that we can wrap our arms around and control or not? I mean, and if, Dabo's evidence doesn't go very far, then, we're right back to square one.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Coleman and Brendan Sorsby seem to be the two most mentioned guys.
Absolutely.
In that article, just from whoever was talking about them. So big gets, and not surprising they were right there at or near the top of the whatever rankings. I mean, it's on 3 and 247 basically at this point. 247's. Who knows what's going on?
And ESPN is in the recruiting game,
and
too.
ESPN, although, I don't think of them that way, and I haven't for a really long time, and maybe that's unfair because Max Olson and guys like that. But
his main thing is portal.
So I don't really get into, their high school rankings and things like that, but this is portal we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, I do need to include them. Tech got a lot of love. I think there were a couple of the other schools that I mentioned, but Oklahoma State got a little bit of love as well for getting Mestamaker, and Caleb Hawkins was mentioned in there.
Oklahoma State, one of the things that they were mentioning is that a lot of times you don't realize they brought in so many players because of the Morris thing, and they maybe didn't get enough credit for that.
I don't know about
Caleb
credit.
Hawkins, two guys said Caleb Hawkins was the best running back in the portal.
I mean, I didn't go and see where they landed in the final rankings, but I'm pretty sure they were pretty high up there.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what more credit they needed. I think everybody's talked about them throughout the offseason and the fact that they went and got all of the best North Texas players and then surrounded that with maybe not the star players, but the guys who will come in and know how to do drills the right way the first time and can show the non-North Texas transfers how things run under Morris and help that acclimation process be a bit quicker. But, I think Oklahoma State's one of those schools that could very well make a massive jump from last year to this year. And there's a lot of question marks, but a lot of fun storylines in all these leagues as far as these transfers go. And, certain schools like this guy very clearly does not think Georgia Tech did much and does not think they're going to be very good next year post Haynes King. So opinions are just that. Everybody's got one, but it's interesting to read a lot of them.
I have one note on college football, and we break. We're going to come back and finish the who's going to be coaching your favorite team in 2030. We have about 8 teams out of the Big 12, so half the league and a few others as well. Navy is going to have their pro day, and for the first time ever, all 32 NFL teams have said they will be there to watch it.
Well, now they finally created a pathway that makes sense for the Service Academy players. This team actually has, I want to say, 4 guys.
They got that Robinson, Landon Robinson or whatever.
And Eli Heidenreich.
He's kind of a utility guy.
Yeah, Heidenreich is how you say that.
Heidenreich, thank you.
Yeah.
And they have a couple other guys who are NFL caliber players, and I'm of the belief that if you are a good enough athlete to play in the pro level, I think that your service time could be better used if you're an NFL player and an active military person in helping the recruiting efforts for that. Because I think there might be some doors that you can maybe open that otherwise you wouldn't be open, because there are athletes out there that think that maybe I'm going to be an NFL player, and if I go to a service academy, I won't get to do that. I'll have to do the Roger Staubach thing, and that doesn't really exist anymore. So I think that would be good, because I think the things that David Robinson and Roger Staubach and players like that have done for, well, that's particularly just Navy, but for those service academy programs are immeasurable in what they can do for you as a student athlete.
Yeah, I don't know if all 32 actually showed up. I saw a thing earlier that at least 20 were there, although all 32 were expected to show up, but I don't know if they got a final head count since it was going on today. But, Blake Horvath, their quarterback, was an intriguing player, but I don't really know how he fits in on the next level. But, Heidenreich, Eli Heidenreich's there their top guy that you would see getting a shot at the NFL along with Landon Robinson. And there's some others. I mean, I think it's a great story, and I think it's a great opportunity for Navy to kind of show themselves off and get some attention they might not otherwise get. I mean, I don't know that we've ever talked about Navy's Pro Day before, so here we are talking about Navy's Pro Day and the fact that there's going to be a big turnout for it. So good for them. And, I think it's going to be fun to see some of these Pro Days. I am a bit I'm definitely not bummed out. I mean, I'm a little bit, I guess, disappointed that we're not going to be up at Frisco in a couple of weeks and get to see like all these players. But I totally understand if Texas Tech wants to have its own pro day with 13 guys and this multi-million-dollar facility they built just for things like this, not to go to Frisco and the Cowboys facility when they've got their own indoor and everything else that you could ever imagine. So, yeah, a little bit bittersweet, but I think Texas Tech will very likely have all 32 there for theirs and with so many options, and we'll see kind of around the rest of the league what that looks like as you start to roll off the board here.
Craig, you and Paul were talking about the Carr and Yesufu. One of the latest projections for the top 10 shooting guards in college basketball who are draft eligible, which of course means you could be a freshman or older. Peterson's 1, Cameron Carr is 3, and then Tunde Yesufu, is at number 9. So 2 of the top 9 for a team that's 15 and 15 if, in fact, those guys go to the next level.
I guess that would depend a lot on where they fall. I mean, are you the 9th guy actually drafted at that position, and where does that put you? Are there a bunch of dudes going in the first round from that position, or are you like late second round? That's going to be a big deciding factor, and this is where if you're Baylor in this particular case, you better have your NIL money lined up because you need to at least be somewhat enticing. You need to at least make them think, if I'm not drafted early on where it's a no-doubter that I need to go, is the money all that different or the opportunity all that better on the NBA side of things if I'm a second rounder, which means and has meant for a very long time, even some first rounders, you have no guarantee whatsoever you're on the team. Like none.
The first 15 do, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So if you get drafted late first round, if you're a first rounder, I think you probably go out. If you're a second rounder, though, I think if you got a nice offer back in college and you're just playing your first year of ball like Cameron Carr is, then why not come back and make $2 million and get better and then be a surefire first rounder or lottery pick next year? So, yeah, a good problem to have if you're those guys. Yeah, that's for sure.
And if you're the 15th pick, I just looked last year, the 15th pick got $3.9 million first-year salary. And then the next year, of course, it bumps up a little bit. Then it gets up to 4.3 your third year. Carr is, what is he, a fifth year from Tennessee to Baylor? But he put up some numbers, and there's a couple of graphics about, the plus or minus when you're on the court. His is staggering, like a plus 50 compared to everybody else. There's a lot of guys that are minus on the Baylor men's basketball roster. So
yeah, I think he's a guy that could kind of be anywhere, I guess, in that no man's land where it's not a no-doubter that he's going, it's not a no-doubter that he's leaving. It's sort of just like, yeah, we'll see where he falls here in 4 more months when that rolls around. But I know there's a lot of pushback from some of the fan base for Scott Drew and like, well, we don't need to go get NBA guys anymore. It's like, do you see what Keontae George is doing right now and all the free publicity he's getting? You mean to tell me you're going to turn guys like that away? Okay, you do that, and you keep thinking that you can magically recreate the 5th and 6th year senior-laden team that you had in 2021. Like, the whole concept of we just need to do what we did in 2021 is just so off base to me.
You can't do it anymore.
You can't, exactly. You can't do it anymore. So, like, I see that all the time, though, of like, we don't need to get the Keontae Georges and the one-and-done guys. We need to get and I understand because you've had a bunch of one-and-dones and you're on like the greatest streak of draft picks you've ever had in program history. It's not even close. And you're putting guys in the NBA at least one at a time every single year to varying degrees of success. Like Keontae George right now is a freaking superstar in Utah, like just burgeoning superstar.
Edgecombe.
Then you've got guys like Sohan, who's not where you would like him to be at this point in time.
In fact, he's cut, right?
Well, he's with the Knicks now and playing a lot more with them.
But his situation in San Antonio went south, and so, yeah, he moves on from them. And so it's varying degrees, but like you're going to turn down those guys because you think that if you don't spend on like that one NBA star, then you're going to just be able to spread it out and get like your Davion Mitchell and your who else? Butler and all those guys. Like that was just
Maceo,
that was a magical roster construction that's probably never going to be replicated.
And I think they forget. Here's the detail about Maceo, Butler, and Mitchell that made them work so well together is they had to stay locked away in the gym for a year, which is no longer the case. Like part of that success came out of these three grinders absolutely having to be locked in the gym for a year without being able to play in an actual game and then coming out and working together. And so they became they were so similar and they gelled so well. Well, you're not going to get that anymore because you're not going to have you don't have the 1 year, sit out rule that you did with transfers anymore. So Baylor used that to their advantage maybe better than anybody in the history of college basketball we have some studs that should be playing on this team, but they had to sit out. Yeah. Now that rule's gone.
Marinating. They were marinating. That's that term.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of that, I'll mention this, and we'll get to that list on the coaches. This is a stat that kind of ties into what you were saying. I brought this up to you when I got here. There are only 22 high major scholarship players who will celebrate senior night this week at the school they originally started with. Now think of this, 350 or so Division I schools. Now high majors, you go up a little higher. Mississippi State's Sean Jones Jr. is the only SEC senior to finish where he started. The Big Ten has 10. Big 12 has 5. The Big East and ACC each have 3. And the SEC has Sean Jones. That is 22 players who will finish their career on senior night where they opened up as a freshman.
How many of those 22 also are players that when they get in the game, it is either they're up by a bunch or down by a bunch?
They just love Indiana basketball and they walked on or something and they're just there and earned a scholarship and stuck around because that's what their basketball career is going to entail. Yeah, like how many of those guys versus the guys who actually like have options to go somewhere?
Like if I'm going to transfer, I'm still going to be like I can be a bench player at Georgia or I can be a bench player at Elon College. I'll just stay at Georgia.
Well, and a lot of people want to blame the players, and it's like the coaches are as guilty as anybody. They're the ones that, they're bemoaning when the star leaves, but they're not also going, and we lost that guy, and that sucks, and we didn't want that, but we also pushed 3 guys out of the way to go free up some spots for other guys. Never mind that part of it. So it goes both ways, and that's not shocking. I mean, we see all the activity in the portal, and that is what it is at this point. So, it wasn't a sport that was really designed originally when you had early draft picks to have a whole lot of seniors because your best players would typically leave, but you had the portal into it, and any reason for a guy to stick around for 4 or 5 years outside of just loyalty and a non-NBA career is probably on the move at least once in their life. So, that's what it is, and that's not surprising to hear at all.
When we come back, we will finish up the list of who will be your head coach for 8 more Big 12 programs. This was Ralph Rousseau did this from theathletic.com, and a handful of other schools, and who's going to be here in 5 years and who won't be. And we'll finish that up in the next segment. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club. It is the month, of course, of basketball. The tournaments, the brackets, the buzzer beaters, the upsets and Cinderella, and teams that are really, really good that are supposed to win in the end usually do. They are having a playoff brackets at the club event. Coming out, the regular season is over here at the end of this week, and for some already the tournaments have begun. They're going to have a huge month when it comes to March Madness at the Baylor Club. Also, the daily specials. This is like Monday every week or Wednesday every week or whenever it might be. On Tuesday, sizzling fajitas plus $5 Mexican beers. Wednesday, it's dollar wing night. Thursday, tonight, it's belt-busting Baker's big baked potatoes with all of whatever you want to put on them. And they have, of course, the setup at the Baylor Club. Friday, the surf and turf. $5 glass of house wine available. Saturday, smoked prime rib. Man, that just sounds great. I try to do prime rib, but I just never seem to be able to cook it just right. So let them do that for you, plus a half off any bottle of wine. All of that is going on. Unforgettable amenities, places to celebrate birthdays, graduation, big events, banquets, luncheons, guest speakers, all of that at the Baylor Club. Nick Caldwell, the general manager, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
At the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels, drive a new Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $13,000 off, or a new Laramie Crew Cab with 3.9% plus $15,000 off MSRP. Shop Allen Samuels at Waco.
Hello, I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. At TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, Your Bank for Life.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
So yesterday we started this project, so to speak. Isn't that what you'd call it, Paul? A project.
Yes. Well, it's 2 days ago.
Was it? Yeah,
point.
that's right.
'Cause we didn't do it yesterday because we had New Heisel and Stacey Dales, who I'm really mad the microphone wasn't working. I didn't get to participate in that because I follow her work really.
You don't think that was on my?
Yeah, you just
kinda
ruined
shoved
that
you
for
to
me.
the side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you don't know how to fix anything, here's a regret in my career.
You never taught me how to fix anything.
No. It's actually much more lazy than that. I wish I had never learned how to fix things.
No, yeah.
Because when you know how to fix things, then people expect you to help. But if you don't know how to fix anything, they just take pity on you and leave you alone.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So you ready to go, huh? So Ralph Rousseau, theathletic.com, wrote a column. His editor said, hey, what about doing a column about who's going to be the head coach at specific schools, and he went through all of the Power 4 schools in the year of 2030. And so it's an impossible task, and some people probably take it a little bit too seriously if you say so-and-so's gone. But we stopped right before we got to Houston. We had Willie Fritz yesterday, so let's pick up with that. Who do you think they have as Houston in 2030?
Well, I know this because I looked, but it is the coach, I want to say his name's Tremaine Jackson, that's at Prairie View A&M.
At Prairie View A&M. Unless you're Deion Sanders, there's no track record of going from HBCU to the Power 4. Maybe Jackson will need a stop along the way, but he is 50-16, right around the corner at Prairie View A&M, and has also had stints at Colorado Mesa, Valdosta State, before joining the SWAC.
Yeah, I would bet against that one right now if I had to do like a futures thing on this. Not that he won't be in that position 4 years from now at this point, but I think he's going to have to do a lot in the next 4 years to be the head coach at Houston by that point in time. He has like no real power level experience, so I think to go and take a guy who's maybe carved out his career mostly at your Valdosta States or your Colorado Mesas, that seems like a bit of a far jump, right?
It was one that made me go back and look a little bit about who he is. And
he's very successful, has had a very good record, as you mentioned, at his stops. But, yeah, don't know a ton about him. Other than he's a Houston native, and he's been very good, and he's one of those up-and-coming guys you hear about. But beyond that, the thing that jumps out to me is just there's a bit of an experience lacking as far as were you at least like the OC at TCU for a couple of years, or at the linebackers coach at Georgia, or something like that. Some of that kind of typical experience you would see. He's been around a lot, but it's been at the JUCO level, A&M Kingsville, Sioux Falls, Abilene Christian, Texas State, like 6 years ago now at this point. But he's been coaching now as a head coach for a good long while, so he has some experience definitely that he could lean on. But, yeah, that seems like it would be a bit of a reach right now, but in 2030, maybe it's not so much of a reach.
He played at Houston. That's one of the connections there, by the way. That's his alma mater where he graduated from Houston. That name right there, I didn't know much about him. I do know Prairie View, 50-16, so his overall record as a head coach.
I don't know that he played at Houston. He graduated
I said he graduated from Houston.
Right, I'm just clarifying that I don't know that he played at Houston, but he graduated from Houston.
He played at Texas Southern, Louisiana Monroe as a defensive tackle. Yeah,
that's what I was clarifying.
All right, so now let's go to the next school on the list. Iowa State. Matt Campbell now at Penn State. Jimmy Rogers in year one from Washington State. The prediction from Ralph Rousseau is Matt Entz, the head coach at Fresno State.
I like Matt Entz a lot. I think he's a really good coach, and I won't be surprised to see him get a big job here soon, if not in a year. Like if Fresno State is good this year, Matt Entz will be in a power conference in 2027.
He's got that ladder that we saw with Campbell, Kleiman. I'm missing a name or two, and heck, because of what Kirk Cignetti's done, there's a little bit of that ladder that people might look at that a little bit differently than they did before. Craig?
What job is this for?
Iowa State.
Okay, I didn't hear you the first time around. Sorry about that. I think that would be a background that would make some sense for them. He's a really good coach, doing a great job currently. Projecting that on out, wonder what that means for Jimmy Rogers and what he was able to do. And what's all accomplished in the next 5 years. I'm thinking they either think he had a lot of success. I guess with all these guys, they had a lot of success and moved on, or they didn't have enough and they got pushed out, and you're having to go a different route. So, Matt Entz is definitely an up-and-comer and a name that you're going to hear a lot about moving forward, and has already had a good deal of success. So, I could see that for Iowa State. That would make sense as a fit.
Iowa State AD Jamie Pollard, by the way, will join us next week. Lance Leipold at KU, one of our favorites. Year 6 at KU in 2030. Andy Kolanecki, the offensive coordinator at KU, he's back on campus.
Yeah, he's going to be a head coach soon. There's no doubt in my mind that that'll happen. So, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I don't have much to say on it other than he better do a really good job at Kansas this year, or one of our favorites, Lance Leipold, is going to be under the microscope, because I think that he is.
We'll go visit him.
Yeah. I was just there. I took the tour. They're out of excuses. They're out of excuses outside of that, getting the NIL. But they've got a quarterback battle coming up, so that'll be interesting for Andy Kotelnicki this year. But, yeah, it would not shock me to see him be the head coach very soon.
I think Leipold's definitely dangling a little bit right now, and 2030 is probably, he's not going to be there at 2030 for one reason or another. So Kotelnicki, sure. The Penn State stint was very short-lived and very forgettable, and so good for Kansas that he wraps his way back around. That worked out really nicely for them, and hopefully can bring some of that spark offensively back, but no Jalen Daniels this time around. That's okay. He got plenty of experience not having Jalen Daniels ready anyways. So, I think they've got a good, solid quarterback base to work with, and I think KU will take a step forward in that department. I don't have high hopes for them this year. I'm not very confident in them in the big picture of the Big 12 right now. I don't really see a lot of reason to be outside of you're just a believer in Lance Leipold putting it all together. So, I could see that happening either because Leipold just needs a change of scenery, or it's not working here in the next couple of years and he's out of there. And, Kotelnicki knows the lay of the land, so that would make sense.
Leipold's 61 years old. And so by then, talk about mid-60s, but Kotelnicki back on staff has made a difference. We had him on, in fact, Leipold a couple of weeks ago. K-State, Colin Klein, year one. Colin Klein will be there in 2030, Ralph Rousseau, and that makes sense to me too.
That's one of the very few he probably has on the list that's the same. I don't think Colin Klein's going to go anywhere until, somebody like if A&M opened up again and they wanted him back or something like that. I think he's going to be pretty well entrenched in his alma mater until another job pops open, because I think he's going to do a great job there.
Yeah, I don't see Colin Klein leaving K-State unless he's established something. And so I think with his love for the university and all of those things that they're promising and going to back him with, that it would make sense that he's still around in 2030. I think it would be a massive disappointment for Kansas State if he's not. And the only reason it wouldn't be would be that he won like 2 or 3 Big 12 titles in a row and went to the playoff every year and then was just so damn good Alabama had to pay him or something. But beyond that, you better damn sure hope he's still the head coach in 2030 at Kansas State, because either he didn't work out or something went wrong, in my opinion. And I'm hoping that won't be the case. So, I think it's a good call that he'll be there in 2030.
I do too. And we will have Colin Klein on in the next week. So we're starting to get with spring football starting and all that. He will join us, I believe it's next Thursday on 365 Sports. And then Oklahoma State with a red-hot, young Eric Morris, what he's done and what he did at North Texas. They have all those players that joined the roster at Oklahoma State. However, Ralph Rousseau thinks that Eric Morris will be moving on. We'll tell you about that in a moment. And Brent Venables at Oklahoma will become the coach just a little bit east of Norman.
I definitely don't think Brent Venables is the coach in Norman in 2030. I think they'll have moved on at that point. I don't see him being the head coach at Oklahoma State, though, either. I don't know why Oklahoma State would really want that. If he's got Sooner all over him and he's coming off of either getting fired or what? Like, he's not going from Norman to Stillwater by choice.
No.
So you'd be taking Oklahoma's coach that they moved on from to go be your coach? No, that's not going to happen. I don't see that.
And I would say that the only way it would make sense for them is if Brent Venables is really successful and somehow Oklahoma State, becomes also this close and just snipes him in a contract dispute. And that's the only reason it's satisfying for them. But there's no way Brent Venables, and there's no way that whoever the athletic director is at that point, probably the same guy they have right now. Weiberg is probably him. There's no way that he's going to walk out if Eric Morris leaves and goes to a bigger job and say, by the way, we're going to hire the coach from the school that they fired that you hate. And they're going to be like, no.
But the AD at Oklahoma's changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've had some change in the administration just in case some turmoil from that.
But that doesn't mean that Brent Venables is going to be attractive to Oklahoma State at all. It probably makes Brent Venables less attractive to the new AD at Oklahoma if he steps out of winning even a little bit.
Oklahoma State doesn't want Oklahoma's ex-head coach unless Oklahoma's ex-head coach is a former Cowboy who won 3 straight national titles and decides to take his ball and just go dunk it at his alma mater. Like, beyond that, I don't know why you're taking Oklahoma seconds that they don't want any longer. No.
All right.
I don't see that one.
TCU, Sonny Dykes' 5th year. Seems like, they're in a pretty good run. Excuse me. They're in a pretty good run. But in 2030, Rashad Samples, Oregon running backs coach.
At TCU?
Yep.
I think that's – I'm surprised that's something that hasn't happened at a school in Texas yet. I'm really, really surprised. I know that, like, he's because he's at Oregon and he is wherever he wants to be as a high-level assistant coach and probably one of the higher-paid position coaches because he's such a dynamic recruiter. But I think he is going to be a head coach. And if a school in Texas is not the first spot that he is the head coach, it will floor me because it makes too much. To me, it's like Brian Hartline, when he got the head coaching job, it should have either been at Ohio State, which is alma mater, or in Florida where he's the best recruiter, which makes sense at South Florida where he is right now. Rashad Samples, if you're going to give him a job, it should be in Texas because he could recruit every kid in this state.
He's 31. He's worked for Sean McVay with the Rams, Dillingham at Arizona State, and Dan Lanning at Oregon. Yeah, he's had a heck of a run at a very young age and a hot name to look forward in the future.
I definitely think he'll be a head coach at that point. I think it was really interesting to see him brought up for the North Texas job. That would have been a great start for him as a head coach. But Neil Brown, with his experience, I don't blame North Texas for going that route, although I think Samples had to be enticing just because of kind of the cool young factor. The thing about him that's sort of weird is he's not really been a coordinator of any kind. He's like an ace recruiter. That's why you hear about him all the time is he's an ace recruiter, but like the extent of his assistant coaching job has been up until now, he's an assistant head coach. But prior to that, it was like positional coach, recruiting coordinator, positional coach, passing game coordinator. Like passing game coordinator is like the highest level he reached up until his job now with Oregon where he's assistant head coach. But being the assistant head coach at Oregon means, yes, if you're not a head coach in the next 5 years, then something's gone massively wrong because you're being groomed to be a head coach.
And that title is usually to give you a bump. It's not so much it's not a coordinator, it's not the head coach, but also if you give him that title, he gets extra money.
He does get extra money, so it's enticing to bring him there, and it does not mean you're going to be a head coach. But if Rashad Samples, given all the talk about him, now being an assistant head coach at Oregon, is not a head coach by 2030, then I think that would be pretty surprising. But if he's not, then I think it probably speaks to you're a great recruiter, but I don't know about the on the field as much as maybe some others with years of coordinating experience or something along those lines. But having said all that, I could definitely see him being the head coach at TCU. I think that would make a lot of sense. I don't foresee Sonny Dykes necessarily being there 5 more seasons. So, that one, I could see that definitely.
All right, so there we are with Rashad Samples. And we keep clicking down the list. Texas Tech is next. They do not have Joey McGuire as the head coach in 2030. He's in year 5. That means it would be year 9 or 10 if there was a change at that particular time. And this is going to be interesting to see the Tech fans. Lincoln Riley, USC head coach, formerly on the staff, of course, at Texas Tech.
So it doesn't say that I can tell in the article where Joey went. I'm imagining he was fired because they haven't won a national title at that point. He really has absolutely zero reasons, excuses, hurdles to not being in the playoff every single year with the current setup. I mean, they really and truly, like a year where Texas Tech doesn't make the playoff, knock on wood, like their version of Brendan Sorsby in 2028 got hurt or something like that. But beyond that, or multiple schools in the Big 12 just suddenly rising up to a level that they haven't been at as far as going and getting talent and things like that, I don't see any reason why they're not in the playoff every year. So you're firing him then probably at that point for not getting past like the first round enough or something along those lines. That would be interesting. I do think there's going to come a point, as beloved as he is, where you do have such advantages that now it is up to the coach, right? It's not just like, well, we just need to get another quarterback. Like that's this year. That's this year with Brendan Sorsby, or we need to get this guy or that guy. But like by 2030, it's going to be on Joey. It's not going to be on the next Brendan Sorsby.
If they don't have success, right?
Well, which is what we're talking about clearly, because we're talking about him moving on from the job by 2030. So, yeah, that would mean that he hasn't had success, right?
Or maybe he goes and does something else. I don't know. But, yeah, he's still young, though.
I'm not firing him. I'm just saying that if he's not head coach.
I'm saying is I'm trying to figure out what Ralph, he didn't say it in here, because, like we had the Kalani Sitake, he's leaving BYU and he's going to be at Washington. I don't know what his next move would be. I'll have to reach out to Ralph and see what he thinks.
Right, so that's why I'm basing it off the fact that he doesn't have another job, so that he probably got fired. So what I'm saying is that means that, they got to a point where it wasn't a talent issue. It was just that, they couldn't get past the first round. So if that's what it is, then, I think Lincoln Riley would make some sense with the West Texas ties and the offense and the quarterback play and all those things. I think that'd be a really great coach for them. I think he's a better coach than people sometimes give him credit for, because it's easy to make fun of him for the way he cooks fish or steak or whatever. I think Joey's going to be there for the long haul. I would not be surprised if he's still there in 2030.
Yeah, I think that the thing that will get Lincoln Riley, pun intended, cooked poorly at USC is he never gets that defense right. Or right enough to where they can be a playoff team. There's no reason.
Why do you think he hired Gary Patterson?
Well, yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So if all those things don't work, and part of it was, and I've actually always kind of liked Lincoln Riley. There's a couple things that bother me. The way he kind of takes everything so personally in little innocuous media sessions, and the fact that there was hubris on his part when it came to the defense when he was at Oklahoma. There was actual hubris of, no, I can outscore anybody. I don't need that much of a defense. No, dude, you do. You can't just think that, you're just because you're a quarterback guru that makes everything okay. There's going to be teams that put you in such a hole that if your quarterback has one bad quarter, you're screwed. So those are things I don't like. But if he gets cooked at USC, going back to where he's from, and he loves West Texas. Make no mistake, this is a guy who loves it. There are you're either kind of a West Texas person, you're not, and if you're born there, you really, really are for the most part, unless you got out to escape your high school boyfriend. But outside of that, I would say that that's a good fit. I just don't see a scenario, because Tech has gotten exponentially better over the last couple years, where Joey is not contending, at least to a point where in 4 years he's gone, because it's such a perfect job for him. But that things change fast in sports. I just don't see what would be a better job for Joey than Texas Tech is right now.
Yeah, I think if he ever stops coaching, it's because he walks away, and hopefully for his case, that
he's
he's
making
had
a bunch.
success.
And the coaches make so much money now at places like that you could get to a point where you're 55, 56 years old, you've accomplished what you wanted to, you have $35 million in the bank, and you know what? All right, I've done enough. There's no more worlds for me to conquer. I'm done.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, he could go the retirement route. The way that Ralph positions it, if you read the article, is that they are looking to go get Lincoln Riley. So, yeah, that means that Joey's already been run out of town, or he took another job, or he retired. Yeah, perhaps at that point, because they've gone to the playoff 7 years in a row, and he's made $40 million or whatever. Probably more than that, actually, way more than that, actually. And so, there's a lot of scenarios. He doesn't outline that, but I would think if you're going and getting Lincoln Riley with the way the question was posed, that's because you're probably not able to break through that ceiling. And you finally are like, all right, we've done everything we can. We've hit every portal checkbox you can. Now we got to boil it down to the coach. And hopefully it doesn't come to that. And I don't think that it will. Definitely not anytime soon.
All right, let's go down one or two more in the Big 12. We got three more schools in the Big 12. UCF, Scott Frost. In 2030, Willie Simmons, Florida International head coach. Tallahassee native, Paul, you know him, former Florida A&M coach, broke a 5-year bowl drought at FIU, and that is if Scott Frost moves on, Willie Simmons would be up next.
I love Willie Simmons as a coach. I think he's going to do a better job each and every year at FIU, and I think he will have a job like UCF in the future. I think that he's a really, really sharp guy. I think he's a really good recruiter. I hate that that Florida A&M was in a situation where they just can't pay enough for their head coach to where he didn't just go to Duke to be a running backs coach for a year or two so he could get a head coaching job at a place like FIU. But that's just the nature of the beast, because I do think that Florida A&M could be a really great place athletically if they can continue to get the kind of budget that they need, which has been a huge problem for them. But I do love Willie Simmons. I'm a big fan of his as a coach. And, I think that if Scott Frost doesn't work out in the sequel, their UCF, they could do a whole lot worse than Willie Simmons. As a matter of fact, I think he's a fantastic fit for that culture.
I think it makes a ton of sense, and I'd be very surprised if Scott Frost there in 2030. I mean, just if he is, then they've had a good deal of success, and that'd be great for UCF. That's what they're hoping for. But if I had to bet on it, I mean, yeah, I'd probably say there's more likely that they are making a move at that point in time. So Willie Simmons would make a lot of sense, and I could see that one.
All right, Utah, Morgan Scalley just took over for Whittingham's now at Michigan, and he will remain at Utah. Continuity hires can be hit and miss, but the guess here is Utah's stability and culture makes Scalley's tenure a success after he succeeds Kyle Whittingham. I think that makes sense. It's like two or three guys that did just take it over year one with succession and or new coaches. Yeah, it looks. I hope for his case.
I don't think Utah is a quick trigger finger place either. I think you've got a lot of support there, and you should give a guy a little time.
I think he'll be there at 2030, and if not, then they've had some really atrocious couple of years that he forces their hand. Doesn't strike me as the type of guy that'll go job hopping. Loves Utah as a Utah guy through and through. He's got his dream job, much like Kalani Sitake at BYU. So, I think we're going to see Scalley in Utah as long as they'll have him, and I don't see them taking such a drop that he would lead them into the next 5 years having to be forced to fire one of their chosen ones. I think he'll be there in 2030.
You don't want to be the one that follows a legend, right? And that doesn't mean it's always the case, but he is following Utah's legend. West Virginia, Rich Rod, year 2, 2030, Oklahoma offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle. He is 30 years old and, of course, hot young coach.
He'll be a head coach in the next 2 years. I don't know why you said hot like that. It was a little bit weird.
Yeah,
a little weird connotation. I mean, if you like him, you like him. That's fine. You can be you.
I think he's hot.
You can do the back half a different way.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a head coach soon, and I don't think Rich Rod will be there in 2030. I don't know that Rich Rod will be there in 2027 or 8, depending on how this season goes. I think he's enough of an abrasive type of a guy that you're just not going to hold on to him because you have no better options or anything. West Virginia's a great spot for a head coach. So I think Rich Rod's kind of early on been able to sort of be the old Rich Rod and kind of be the cantankerous, sort of aggressive type of a guy. But that S gets old real fast for people. So they got to win in these next couple of years, or I think that they're going to go, this is not going to rekindle any old magic. This is just an old coach that came back and we're no better off than we were with Neil Brown. So let's go get somebody young that can excite the fan base, because Lord knows they would desperately need it at that point. But we'll see. I just know this whole, let's turn over 90% of the roster is not a sustainable thing year to year. And they've got a lot of transfers, so I have no idea what to expect with West Virginia really this year.
He, at one point, was he graduated with a degree in finance and economics. He's talk about moving up the ladder very quickly. He's done that. He's just 30. And so Ben Arbuckle. That's it for Ralph Rousseau and the article about who's going to be your head coach in 5 years. For example, we'll have to discuss. Nebraska would be Jake Dickert, Wake Forest. Ohio State, James Laurinaitis, former Ohio State star. Lanning stays at Oregon. Campbell stays at Penn State. And then USC would have Kalen DeBoer if Lincoln Riley was to end up in this scenario headed to Texas Tech. And we mentioned Sitake would be at Wisconsin. We'll do the SEC at another time, as this is 365 Sports. Craig and Off the Radar is next. So today, for the first time since January of 2023, I ran a mile. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do a mile and a half. I'm not going to do 2. I haven't run a mile since 2023. Garrett and Paul will remember that I was kind of all tied up after running in Phoenix at a Super Bowl. And it's the first time. QC Kinetics. There's no way I even thought about it. It was hard for me to walk a mile, much less it was even a thought about running. But the good news about it is I have no pain. Ouch. I didn't have that tug when I was running. And I mean, I didn't run fast. I ran as to jog. And I did it with a mile. Inside of our chat room today on 365 Sports, there's many of you talking about how you have aches and pains and surgeries and more. And even You've had steroid shots and injections, and then you started having something else you needed. I went through that. I kicked the can down the road, and then I heard about and visited with a free consultation at QC Kinetics in Dallas. Advanced Cellular Regenerative Medicine, working on my lower back and also helping my hip that has been bothering me for quite some time. You see the numbers on the screen, 972-972-8610 in Houston, 713-913-5285. You get a free consultation. It is something that I went and talked and then kind of discussed it with myself and then went back and had treatment. And I had one about 2 weeks ago. It is so nice just to get out of bed without that tugging, aching, almost throbbing, arthritic feeling in my hip. It's not there anymore. And I appreciate QC Kinetics, what they did to kind of guide me through the process. Treatments that take what's in your natural biologics, taking it out of your system, spinning it, whether it's blood, plasma, stem cells, and putting it back in your body so you heal you. Think about that for a moment. It is working for me. I ran a mile this morning, and I didn't think I would, maybe ever again, at QCkinetics.com.
4 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
The time is now. It's time for a new ride at the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr GMC Buick Cadillac.
Sierra blends the premium interior with the muscle of a true work truck, built to handle the job and look good doing it. It's why GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. During our New Year New Ride sales event, qualified buyers can save $13,000 on a Sierra. Drive one home today for just $41,390.
Call now, get here now, or log on now for the New Year New Ride Savings Event at Richard Carr.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar. Looking at some stories from around the sports world. And while college sports is very much on our radar, and so is the Big 12 at times as well, we have not talked about something that has been ongoing now for the last day or so, and that is this big LED glass floor at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City.
Oh, boy.
So a few weeks ago, Brett Yormark was doing a courtside interview at one of the games and teased that they had a big announcement that was coming, and then everybody's minds went crazy with what that possibly could be. And I saw the other day, WWE, just bear with me for a moment. I know there's some people that just hate wrestling, but there's a point here. The other day, WWE, they had for 2 weeks been teasing this mystery box and what was in it. And nobody knew. So they just had it it's at this pay-per-view, this PLE, you're going to see what's inside the box, what's inside the box. So they teased it on their shows for a couple weeks. And what did fans do, you think? They all speculated on what was inside the box, which is what the entire point of why you're going to do that, right, is to get people talking about what's inside the box. And this isn't the exact same thing by any means, but when you did say, as Brett Yormark, you had a big announcement, the point being is people's minds went crazy and ran with, what could it be? Oh, my God, is Notre Dame joining the league or this or that? And it turned out to be this LED court was the big announcement, and it was met with mixed reaction because people let their imagination run wild of what it could be. And I don't think anybody's idea was, I bet they're going to announce this fancy LED glass court. So when that was the announcement, it was kind of hit or miss. There were people, Ari Temkin pushed back on us not being over the moon about it. Well, what did you expect? I don't know. It was a blank slate. I expected any number of things. And so it was this, and there were people very excited about it. But so far, guys, it's been much like the reaction, a bit hit or miss. The Big 12 basketball LED court is apparently, according to some players, slick and slippery to play on. BYU forward Brindley Cannon said after the 76-66 victory over Houston, I was sliding a little bit. It's really cool looking, but it definitely is a little bit of a different feel. You have to get used to BYU guard Sidney Benally. Just getting used to it. Slips here and there. There's 4 games that went on yesterday, and then obviously some as well. Apparently, there's been there was a report that you couldn't have food or drinks if you were sitting courtside because it would affect the glass. The Big 12 had to come out and say that's not true, that if you are courtside, you can still sit there, which would, if you had this, what has to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in court, you can't spill a Dr. Pepper on it, then that thing needs to be torn apart and done with because there has to be something to counteract that. So that is actually not true, apparently, and drinks are allowed courtside. But can you imagine, the whole thing goes black because one person spills, their iced tea on it or something?
I think that was Josh Furlong who put that out there, that you couldn't have food on the court.
Well, the Big 12 said that's not true. So, whatever you want to believe. The T-Mobile Center's policy is drinks are allowed courtside, but the food isn't anyway. So it has nothing to do with the court. So that might just be the T-Mobile Center policy. L. Evans, Kansas guard, I think it's a cool idea. I will say it was a little slick in some areas, but we got kind of used to it. So there was that. Meanwhile, BYU's women's coach Lee Cummert said he appreciates the bells and whistles of the LED court. He said in pregame introductions, the whole court being lit up in BYU blue and their names being the whole court. I thought that was as cool as a thing as I've seen. There was one of the media timeouts where the graphic on the court started to move, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit. Some of the other quotes in here, Kylan Ngodu from UCF, sorry if I butchered that, feels like an upgrade playing on that court. I don't really think it feels that different from the regular court, but the technology she apparently liked a lot. K-State guard Jordan Spicer said it was exciting to be the first team to get a W on that court. And then Kansas guard Terrence Side says, I think it's a little bit different feel, but not much. And really the biggest complaint I've seen outside of just the mixed reactions, and then apparently somewhat true, somewhat not report about the food and drink courtside, is the people who are like, why did you bring the design from last year and just put it on the court this year?
Yep.
A lot of people didn't like the design last year, and they've got this brand new court, and they take the unpopular court and put it on this new court when you could have done literally anything. You could have made it a beach if you wanted to do that. I actually think it would be kind of cool if whoever's the home team put their home court out there.
Yeah, no.
Why would you not do that? Unless you've got a special design or something that somebody put together. If Arizona's hosting K-State, put Arizona's home court on there and let it be the Arizona court for that one game. I think that would have been a way to kind of meet that need. But, that's just some of the reaction from the players who have played on it. Obviously, there's a lot more games to be played, including today, throughout the weekend, the men's tournament as well. And we'll see what more of the reactions are like. But so far, it's pretty mixed.
So you're saying if a school had that court, or you're saying on a neutral court, whoever's the designated home team gets that on the court?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, if Arizona's the home team, then give Arizona their home court.
Yeah, and then flash your ads where you flash.
Yeah,
your ads.
put the ads out there. Put everyone.
Some of the players
things
really,
on there.
they've loved that. Even coaches have discussed how the introductions, all that's pretty cool because it's got all the moving parts. But it's also, I read where it might be, there's going to be issues, I guess, where they're having problems with the slick or whatever, but it's softer. So if you do fall on that court, it's a little bit more, lenient for your body not to hit that elbow of the court or whatever it might be.
I didn't see anything about soft, but yeah, that could be something. I just saw slippery quite a bit. There was also from Josh Furlong last night the fact there was no half court line that you could see clearly because of the way the logos were set up. So that was also in his part about the no drinks court side because of the digital court, which they've addressed that now. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to watch today if they addressed the half court line. There was also a panel that had gone out. You could clearly see where a panel had shorted out. I don't think that caused any big to-do or anything, and I guess that eventually got fixed, but really the biggest complaint is just that it looks the exact same as last year. It's like, why you need to get this court and just go do what a lot of people didn't like to begin with? But there is that, and we'll see how that goes throughout the rest of the next couple of weeks or so. But so far, a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the digital court, although there are some definite positives to it. So just work out some kinks, and maybe by the time the men's tournament gets fully underway, it'll be all the rave nationally. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. The slickness part is the one. Like, you can say everything else you want, but if they say it's slick in parts, then that's what's got to get fixed. And again, not being a scientist, I have no idea how you do that.
Yeah, no clue how all that works. The Windex ad will definitely come in handy there for that to try and clean that up. So there you go with the reaction to all of that. Meanwhile, the World Baseball Classic is getting underway, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for this. To see the exhibition games that were going on the other day and to see just kind of the crowd reactions and the players wearing their uniforms. Like, I saw Paul Skeens, who he's put on a Team USA uniform before, like when he was younger and whatnot, but to see him kind of bristling with pride to put that on, I don't think it's any coincidence that, especially fresh off the Olympics and the hockey teams doing what they did, that there's like an extra bit of special feeling than there normally would be to putting on the Team USA jerseys. But today you've got Australia and Czechia, and then you had Czechia playing in this game against Australia, but earlier you saw the Czechs losing to Korea 11-4 at the Tokyo Dome in Japan. So another game coming up tonight on FS1 at 9 o'clock. The Czechs and the Aussies at the Tokyo Dome, a venue I would love to go to. I'd love to see something at the Tokyo Dome. But yeah, that's the sole game today. Then tomorrow, full lineup of games. You'll have, 8 games going on in Japan, Puerto Rico, Florida, and Texas. It will get started at 4 a.m. Mm-hmm. So you would think, in theory, you could watch the 9 p.m. Australia-Czechia matchup tonight, and then get like 3 hours of sleep, and then turn around and wake up at 3:55 a.m. for the 4 a.m. Japan-Chinese Taipei game that will kick things off, and then we'll go all the way from 4 a.m. Here's the start times. 4 a.m. on FS1, 10 a.m. at FS2, 11 a.m. on Tubi, 12 noon FS1, 5 p.m. FS1, 6 p.m. FS2, 7 p.m. Fox, 9 p.m. FS2. That 7 p.m. game is the U.S. at Brazil in Houston, so that will be your first time to see the Americans fully fledged out. But a lot of baseball coming your way starting tonight.
I saw highlights of a game like the Dominican against like the Tigers, and the stands were going nuts. It was like, wow. I think more the energy than the play probably would get me to watch it a little bit.
I absolutely love it, and I saw where Jeremy Pena of the Astros did get hurt, and there's Astros fans that are pissed off because their shortstop has a finger fracture now. Took place in the in the Dominicans game, and so he's now out, it looks like, of the World Baseball Classic with this fractured finger. So, yeah, there were some Astros fans that were very pissed and like, this is why this stupid event doesn't need to happen. I bet if you asked Jeremy Pena, he would suit up for the Dominican and fracture his finger 10 times out of 10, even if it meant missing time playing for the Astros. I feel very strongly about that bet, especially when you see how excited these guys get, and I can understand if you're a Brewers fan, you don't want so-and-so playing for whoever, but I don't know. I'm a Rangers fan. I don't know where all their guys might be spread out, or even if they have any. I'm not even quite sure. I haven't looked that deep into it, but I'm excited to see it. And, yeah, give me this over spring training. And sure, it comes with the risk of injury, but I think every few years it's well worth it. And I think it's something the players obviously agree is well worth the risk as well. So I'm excited to see the WBC.
I need a little juice. I need some juice. Golf is coming back. But I need a little juice, something like that. Yeah,
a little something that's not like football's been over for a month now. We've got college basketball, which is great. The NBA hasn't been all, isn't exciting yet. That's the playoffs. NHL is pretty much good every night, but playoff hockey's great. But I will say the Olympics were fun for me, but I know that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, it was cool. It did feel like it was a little bit lacking. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just not the summer. But there were a lot of great moments, the hockey teams obviously, but I just kind of feel like it came and sort of went. And I don't know, 1 minute it was here and it was gone. It was like, all right, what else we got going on? And the World Baseball Classic is stepping up to fill some of that void. And then finally, just a lot of NFL moves going on right now, including the Buffalo Bills trading for Bears wide receiver DJ Moore. So Josh Allen, desperately in need of some targets, is getting DJ Moore from Chicago. According to Adam Schefter, Buffalo sending a 2026 second-round pick to Chicago in exchange for Moore and a fifth-round selection. There's contract details involved as well. And none of these trades are official until next week because that's when the new league year begins. So it's kind of like the NBA draft thing where like you pick a guy, but it's not officially official or whatever, but it kind of takes a second to become that way. That's why you got guys. It's not a great comparison, but the moves are happening. You just can't officially say they're official until this specific date a few days from now. So that's what's going on in the NFL with the timing of all this. But, yeah, DJ Moore, any thoughts on him going to maybe get Josh Allen over the hump here?
Look, I love it for a lot of reasons. One, he's a fantastic wide receiver. Joe Brady knows him well from their time in Carolina. It's a really good trade for the Bears, too, because they have Rome Odunze and Luther Burden now and some other young wide receivers I think that can fit in to that. Also, for Josh Allen, it gives him a guy who is a number one wide receiver legitimately. I think if they do wind up keeping Keon Coleman, which Joe Brady keeps saying he wants to, this will be good for Keon Coleman to learn and work with DJ Moore. I think it'll be great for Khalil Shakir, who's a player I really like, but he's not a number one wide receiver. I think that this is what that Josh Allen deserves and needs. You pair that with, with Kincaid and Dawson Knox, if they do keep Dawson Knox, that is a pretty good receiving core all around, and then you throw James Cook and the running backs in the mix. I like that. I like that a lot.
When I saw that, I'm like, damn, he got him one. He's got himself somebody to throw it to. So good for him. Good for Josh Allen. Now go win it all.
So there you go. That's just the big move today. There's been various other little moves here, one-year deals and things like that. Obviously, the Cowboys restructured, which, man, I am so freaking sick of the offseason. Dak gets his contract restructured every single year storyline.
did.
I don't blame him. That's
Year
not his
after
fault.
year.
It's actually the Joneses' fault entirely that they put themselves in this situation. But, man, there should really be, if it wasn't family-owned, some malpractice accusations going on about how they've completely fumbled things along the way. And it's like, who's advising you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you just advising yourself? So that's why you get the obvious things wrong of like, no, we'll put this off and just owe way more money a year from now and put ourselves in a much deeper hole than we would if we just made the logical choice right now. But no, let's take this year to year and just stretch it out and make everything more dramatic and more complicated and tougher to pull off. And so they rework the deals of Dak Prescott once again and CeeDee Lamb, and we'll see if it frees them up to do much of anything.
And Tyler Smith, I believe. I think they reworked that one Yeah, and then they're going to have a couple others that they'll rework. I think Quinnen Williams will get reworked eventually,
and maybe this will all lead to Max Crosby in Dallas. That's the dream scenario.
I
we'll
actually
see.
think it's more likely to lead to Trey Hendrickson in Dallas.
Okay, yeah,
because you don't have to give anything up to get Trey Hendrickson. Now, is Trey Hendrickson as good as Max Crosby? No, but it's a nice Mr. Pibb is not as good as Dr. Pepper, but I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
He still has pretty good taste, right?
Yeah, there you go. There's a few things off the radar.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. By the way, real quick note, I mentioned this to you, that the 2 college baseball upsets, University of Louisiana beat LSU last night.
Yeah.
Now, some of these Louisiana schools that are not...
He left. Oh,
yeah, I know.
Coward.
Right? Oh, he's not here. And then also, Nicholls State beat number 10 Southern Miss. And so we've had a couple of upsets during the week in college baseball.
Let me tell you, we've got a little bit of me and Garrett, a little shadow war going on. I made fun of him for LSU the other day, and then yesterday he made a thumbnail with Bill Self with his head down. And last
Why does that
night
affect
about
you?
9 o'clock, my wife said, "Why in the hell is there a picture of Bill Self upset on your YouTube channel?" And I went, it's all Garrett, babe.
She's the program director now?
She is when it comes to Bill Self, I guess. So
Yeah.
I was like, that's not. I didn't care who did it. I just had to have plausible deniability. It wasn't me, which it was not.
But you are the one that brought it up to me yesterday before the show. Do you see
I
that?
said, yeah, he's going to get me in trouble, and he did.
We will come back with Bob. No,
right
go straight.
now.
Okay, great. Former Fox Sports executive and president Bob Thompson with us on 365 Sports. Bob, it's been a while because it's kind of been quiet, but no, it's never quiet. What are your thoughts as a former guy that was in the rooms or whatever when various rights were being negotiated about, is it possible to pull all of the college football money and split it evenly? And why would the Big Ten and SEC ever do that?
First of all, it's good to see you guys. It has been a little quiet. Things going on in the background, obviously, but all seem to be coming to a head, culminating with tomorrow's 40-person photo opportunity at the White House. Not expecting a lot of breaking news out of there. But, as far as the SEC and the Big Ten, I think what you have to remember is that, commissioners are basically hired to advocate for their conferences and to protect their conferences and do what's best for their conferences. And until the presidents or chancellors tell them to do otherwise, that's exactly what they're going to do. So some of these proposals that have been floated about, potentially pooling rights. I mean, first of all, you have a little bit of an antitrust problem, obviously. Mm-hmm. And so until that's fixed, it really couldn't happen. Is there more money out there if it was pooled? Yes. I think there is. Is it the kind of numbers that are being thrown around by, the Save College Sports, Smash Sports / Capital, whoever? I have not seen anything in any of their numbers or any of their calculations that leads me to believe that could happen.
So you said it doesn't, it's not probable. If there was a way to pool the media rights, is there a way to, even if nobody wants to do it, let's say they all agree to do it, is there a way to do it that would make everybody mostly whole?
Yes, I think certain people would ride on the coattails of certain other conferences, and you can kind of figure out who that would be. The thing that really concerns me, I mean, yes, it's going to rise. All the boats are going to raise. Some are going to go raise more than others. And I think you'll see the bigger conferences, the bigger money-making conferences go, well, why should I subsidize these other folks? So they're getting a bigger increase. I'm getting percentage-wise, a smaller increase. So that's going to definitely be a problem. I think, theoretically, you could go to market with, you're talking about 1,000 college football games and about 5,000 men's and women basketball games. And that's before you even get to any of the other Olympic sports, which everybody keeps talking about we're going to save by doing all this. So, and then on top of that, you're doing this at a time when the NFL is just about getting ready to suck a whole bunch of money out of the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So I'm not convinced that there's going to be that many buyers at the dollar levels that are being floated for that many events. I mean, it's a glut. That is, you want to talk about flooding the market with events. that's the perfect example, going to a marketplace with, roughly 6,000 some odd events.
Bob, we've seen Turner get deeper into broadcasting games and kind of make up for losing the NBA, had a relationship with the Big 12 and others. When you look at the streaming part of things, I think the Pac-12 now looks back and is, I don't know they could have done anything to hold it together, but certainly it doesn't look like the Apple thing probably would have worked out very well based on what we've seen with MLS so far. So are there any new contenders that you could see adding some more money to the pool, or are we talking about kind of the same people as always as the last go-around that are going to be spending the money on college football rights coming up in 2030, et cetera?
Well, if they have any shot at getting to the numbers that are floating around, they're going to have to get into the streamers' pockets. And by that, I mean the Netflixes, YouTubes, Amazon Primes of the world. Certainly, the Turner, Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery merger, that's going to help bring some, additional outlets from a linear standpoint to the table. And obviously, I would assume that certainly some of those events are going to end up on Paramount Plus, obviously, just as they do with the NFL. But I think you really are going to have to get in, create some packages that are very desirable for the streaming services, much like what the NFL has done, and it's probably likely to do with this next go around of rights that they're going to take to market here in the next year or so.
Bob, I got to tell you that when a lot of this started, these TV rights or whatever, and Amazon or whoever got involved in streaming, and we heard about them having more and more games or sports, whatever, pro or what, I wasn't quite a streamer, if you know what I mean. I wasn't somebody that went home, and I have now, for the last 4 years, had YouTube TV. And I absolutely, this is for a 67 almost year old man, I freaking love that opportunity for me to go and pick and choose in a buffet type style like I want. Does that change at all any more interest in what they do?
I think it does. I mean, I always called the experience of trying to find your game kind of clunky, because as you move from one platform, say YouTube TV, to another platform, say Amazon Prime, you basically had to leave and so on and so on. But there's been some technological advances. With my DirecTV box that I have now, I get listings for what's on Amazon Prime and what's on Netflix, and I can go to them within the DirecTV kind of ecosystem. So I don't have to leave, open the new app, et cetera. So they've come a long ways. We still, need to work. And I think ESPN is really trying to be the guy that will tell you wherever the game's on, where to go find it. And that's a big step forward.
Bob, obviously a massive merger is headed our way with Warner Brothers and Paramount. If it does, in fact, eventually get through, which I guess it will, but, there's a lot of things that have to happen between now and approval. What does that mean for the sports streaming ecosystem in particular?
Well, again, like I mentioned, in the past, Paramount Plus has pretty much just been a redistributor of sports content that's on CBS. They have some specific events that are Paramount Plus only, and I believe that some of the UFC they just acquired as Paramount Plus only. But bringing TNT and TBS and the sports that have been in those packages to Paramount Plus is going to help as well. I don't know that they're going to put a whole lot of that content on HBO Max. I think that would probably, end up being more of an entertainment-based streaming service as opposed to Netflix. But as opposed to Paramount Plus. But when you combine the two, they've got like 215 million homes, which is bigger than Disney, is bigger than Peacock, and it's about the same as Amazon Prime, and it's about 100 million less than Netflix has worldwide. So it's definitely picking up steam, but the streamers, other than really Amazon Prime, they haven't really jumped into sports with both feet. So I think that's what I'd be watching for next. I think, the NFL is definitely going to carve out a package for, somebody. Netflix, YouTube, whatever. And I think that's going to, they'll carve some games out of the CBS package and the Fox package, and they've got the 4 games from the NFL Network they can put together, and you'll have a new package that's pretty sure it's going to be streaming. But from the collegiate side, they haven't really, got into it significantly. They've kicked the tires. Amazon Prime kicked the tires on the Big Ten. Obviously, as you said, Smokey, Apple kicked the tires on the Pac-12. So there's interest, but they seem to be more about quality than quantity. So they're not looking for huge, big packages.
Hindsight's 2020, but like on the one hand, the pack would still be together, right? If they accepted that Apple deal. On the other hand, they could be in a lot of trouble right now, Bob, right? Like how do you kind of view that in hindsight?
I think, it was unfortunate that them not being able to conclude the deal kind of drove the stake through the heart of the Pac-12. Although if it had happened, I think we'd be hearing the same thing that we're hearing like for the MLS. Nobody can find them. You see that the MLS has made a big 180, and this year the games aren't hidden behind a paywall. If you've got Apple TV Plus, you get the MLS games. So they obviously had realized, and it was pretty clear because nobody was ever talking about how many subs they had for MLS TV. So it was pretty clear it wasn't overly successful. So they had made a 180 and just put it on Apple TV Plus proper, not behind a paywall. And the Pac-12 would have gone through the same thing. So, hindsight, it would have been nice if that could have somehow provided a bridge whereby maybe as streaming advanced and there was not a separate package or pay price for the Pac-12, it could have stumbled along. But it probably saved a whole lot of consternation and griping and moaning from Pac-12 fans who didn't want to pay for the games.
I think they'd probably trade off though for it. Maybe not all of them. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that would have looked like. I'm sure you hear this sometimes, but how much do you agree with the sentiment that's out there when it comes to whether it's realignment choices or decisions on the college football playoff, that the TV executives, the TV networks run college football? Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think I would rather say that the TV networks fuel college football.
Gotcha.
They're the gas, and no one's sitting back there pulling levers behind the Wizard of Oz cape. It just doesn't work that way. Are we consulted on things? Absolutely, because they're going to turn around and look at the networks to pay for it.
Right.
So you don't want to get out of your skis, to use a Winter Olympics analogy, before you kind of know what the people who are going to be footing the bill think about it. But again, is there input? Absolutely, but we're not pulling the levers.
Bob, I thought I saw when there was some discussion about college football and openings or not, because the NFL is basically just slowly but surely taking the turf because college football was stupid and allowed that to happen. There's no way the NFL will feel sorry for them in any way, shape, or form. Will they when it comes to the turf war and taking more and more land in TV?
No. The NFL is the 800-pound gorilla, and it'll step wherever and on whoever it wants. And that's just how it is. I mean, I think there's an opportunity for them to have a little better scheduling relationship than they've had in the past. You see what happens to the ratings for those games, the CFP games that go up against NFL Saturday games. They get squashed. They just get squashed. Mm-hmm. That's why those games are on TNT. ESPN doesn't even want them on their network. They'll put them over on TNT and let them take the hit. But I think there's some ways that if you sat down in a room, and this is going to be even more important if, say, we go to 16 or to 24, if you sit down in the room and you combine that with some strategic changes to the college football schedule, week 0 being week 1, et cetera, shrinking the windows in between rounds of the playoffs, having to play on, untraditional days and nights and times, you can get away from the NFL. But if you don't make those steps, you're going to be at their mercy. And if you decide you just want to go up against them, fine, you're going to have to live with that. But I do think they're should or could be a way that they could figure something out so they don't have those conflicts.
Do you think that there's a way to get this all done by January 1st?
No.
No.
No, nothing happens that fast.
I mean, no. I mean, like as far as not this year, but like if you could condense the college football calendar to where you could start week 0, now week 1, and then have the championship game on or around January 1st, even if, say, there might be, or maybe January 8th at the latest, depending on how the calendar falls.
Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood you there.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think if you go to week 0, and I think there's like 10 or 12 days off between the finals and the semis.
Yep.
I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Sometimes more.
And, yeah. And then if you look at the NFL, at some point they're going to go to 18 games. And at some point, I firmly believe their desire is to have the Super Bowl on the day before President's Day, so that it's a 3-day holiday and finish up then. So if you could, they might move back a week, or say they still start the week after Labor Day, but they maybe build an extra bye weekend in conjunction with adding an 18th game. That might be something that would help create enough separation between the starts and the finishes of the two different entities that everybody could be able to play in such a manner that they're not stepping on each other's toes.
Are they ever going to get to the point where they're like, all right, 18, that's it? Or is it like a few years from now we're like 19 games, baby? Like let's make it happen. I mean, there's got to be a point where there's a finish line, right?
I think so, and I think as long as the NFL can continue to sell the games and monetize them, which then drives the salary cap. And you're up to, what is it, 300 million this year, I believe?
302, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's a big river they cross. So the numbers that the players are getting paid, if they somehow got an extra week off in there, so say you had 2 buys, is that possible then that they might go ahead and agree to an 18th game?
Bob, what were your thoughts about Smash Sports and that meeting they had where it kind of was like a group of a mishmash of people trying to figure things out? And then, of course, there's the meeting with the White House and Trump, et cetera, that you weren't invited to. And, hell, you're the one that has experience, and no current athletes were invited either.
Yeah, I don't know. Tell me you're going to put 40 people in a room for an hour and a half and anything's going to get done.
No.
I mean, it's just not going to happen. That's why I called it a photo op. I think that one is, it'll be interesting to see. There's a handful of people who certainly deserve to be there. There's some others I looked at and just kind of shook my head. On the Smash Sports thing, that's Rudy, who, the original project that came out. The only difference is they went from 75 teams to 138 teams, because I think there was some significant political pushback that you're not going to, kick these 80 teams to the curb or 60 teams to the curb. They've got to be involved as well. So there's been some changes. I've only seen kind of the overview. And again, like I said, it's very short on details as it relates to how they would actually get from point A to point B with the dollars. I think that, they've got some smart guys there. There's some ex-Disney guys and been involved in private equity. So they certainly know what they're doing. But I'm just a little hesitant to really say one thing or another, because it's light on detail. And, like you said, it's kind of a mishmash of people who were there for both meetings. It's a bit of an interesting collection. But clearly people are looking at, kind of pushing things. There seems to be momentum now for something to get done. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. And I'm also very cautious about inviting the federal government into your business. It's a slippery slope. And once you go down that slope, you're at the whim of whoever's sitting in control of Congress or control of the White House. So what you may have now may not be what you have after the next round of elections.
Bob, I think also, and I've said this a ton, What the federal government needs, because they have no expertise in this, is for these people to have a plan, fully flesh it out, and then come to them to codify the individual sections of the plan that they need government protection on. Not go to the government and say, like, here's the idea, can you work something up, which appears to be what's going on right now.
Yes, I agree. Again, we're from the government. We're here to help you.
Yeah.
I don't like that, sound of that. I also don't like the sound of the government being responsible for television negotiations, which I've seen bandied about and some things. I mean, that just makes no sense. So I do agree that somehow from the collegiate side, they need to flesh out the program, flesh out a plan, and take that to the federal government and to Congress and say, here, this is what we need. The problem is right now you can't get anybody to agree on the plan. So you've got a bunch of different plans that have been presented to various constituents and various politicians who have then carried it forward and tried to get a bill passed, and they've all stalled out.
Bob, can't ask you or can't go an entire interview not ask you just some type of realignment related question. Clearly there's a bunch of contracts coming up all around the same time. We know there was a big go round of movement just a couple years back at this point. I think you made it clear, like, nothing matters until the NFL gets their deal done, correct? Like, that's going to be the predictor for everybody. So we'll see that. But then beyond that, like, what's the forecast, if any? And I know you can't, like, specifically predict something unless you just really want to, but for all those people that eat that kind of thing up, what would you say is, like, the forecast on major realignment in college sports moving forward?
Somebody made the comment that realignment never sleeps, and it's true, and it lives and breathes 24/7 every day of the year. So I'm sure there are things going on. There are people who are considering different things. Pretty soon here, some folks at the ACC are going to have a more reasonable way to get out if they should desire. So there could certainly be some movement. I don't know of any heavy-duty rumors that I'm putting a whole lot of faith in right now. The only thing I can say is, as has been in the past, at least for the last 40 years, realignment always occurs around the expiration of TV deals. And we're coming up on the point here very soon where once the NFL is done, there's going to be some talks about renewing certainly the Big 10 and the Big 12 are the first two up. Then you've got the SEC in 34. And then you've got the ACC in 36. So there's a bunch of things going on where they'll start, the process will start. Somebody's probably going to try and jump the NFL. I don't know that that's going to happen. But there probably somebody who might try. But I think the networks are going to say, well, I have to have some certainty on my NFL rights before I, wade into the collegiate world again. Because, they've got some certainty on the collegiate side for several more years. So no reason to kind of panic and go do something early.
Yeah, we need something like Michigan, Ohio State's going to join the SEC type story. We need that. We
Don't say that. Don't say that. They're going to get all the conspiracy theories.
Oh, my God. Hey, buddy, it's great to see you. Are you hitting them straight? And thank you for your time today. I hope you're getting on the golf course.
Yeah, every once in a while I get out there.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. The best. Thompson Sports Group, former Fox Sports Network and international president, and Big Ten Network co-founder, which is a massive moneymaker for that conference.
I think that's a disappointing answer if you're hoping something happens in, like, next month or this offseason or whatever. Outside of, like, North Dakota State wants to try to get to the FBS type of a thing. So, yeah, those contracts 2030. Now, I did mention somebody jumping the NFL. I wouldn't think the Big 12 could do that. The Big 10, possibly. But, yeah, that NFL deal is going to be the one that just sets the bar for everything else and how much money's left over and all of those types of questions. So that's going to be really interesting here in the next few years as we get closer to 2030 and beyond of what all that looks like, because it sounds like it could get pretty crazy.
John Wilner asked the question, and we go to all the stuff we have. Don't tap the fingers. It's part of what we just did. How is there going to be any money left over for anything with the NFL about to get even more than they already get, which is most everything that you could imagine? Here is the wheel.
The sound's back. That's good.
It's got to be much more emphatic, though, but it's back.
If you owned a self-driving car, would you use the hands-free? Well, I mean, yes, of course I would.
Why else would I have it?
Why would else I have it? Like, no, yeah. Why else would I have a self-driving car?
I don't know,
I don't
man.
trust them yet.
I
don't trust them yet.
trust them. There's always going to be a quirk with everything.
You
Nothing's
trust
perfect.
the self-driving cars right now?
Yeah.
It's too early on for me.
No, I mean, I understand. It's like I've never done that, but I kind of do trust them. But I do know this, is I'm too much. I love to have my hand right there on the steering wheel, so maybe I would just kind of have
No, you
it.
actually need the self-driving car, Mr.
Whoa!
Road rage.
Oh,
yeah.
That car's in my way.
Texting and road rage.
Yeah.
Next question.
The worst I've ever come across as far as that goes. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd say for me, I'm going to wait a little while. I'm just not like that. I just don't really need it, honestly. I'm not like looking to not drive my car.
If you're a control freak, you couldn't let that car do that, right? I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about
I don't really care for self-driving right now. I don't really feel the need to have it. Maybe if I had a family, but even I feel like I'd be even less inclined to do that.
I'll tell you, here's the other thing about self-driving cars. Here's what I don't trust. I trust the people less than maybe the computer, but I still don't trust the computer enough. If everybody goes to self-driving cars, I'll be the first in line.
Sure.
Because I don't particularly enjoy driving all that much. I would love to just sit in the back and relax and be like, take me to Dallas, please.
Yeah. Who would you trust more to take you to Dallas? Me or a self-driving car?
I would let a 5-year-old on a big wheel drag me behind the car to Dallas. That's how nervous I get in your car.
You guys are being sweet today. Let's go to the trivia questions.
Okay. The NFL Scouting Combine is where legends are made, at least combine legend. Which speedster currently holds the all-time record for the fastest 40-yard dash in combine history of the blistering 4.21 seconds? This is either Xavier Worthy or John Ross. I want to say that John Ross is 4.22 and Worthy is 4.21.
Yeah.
I thought Worthy broke it.
Yeah, he did.
I thought that Worthy broke it
He did.
with the 4.21, so I think it's him.
Yeah, we'll go with Worthy.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I already just kind of said this whole thing.
Yeah. 2024, Texas Longhorn star shattered the previous record of 4.22 held by John Ross. Worthy's speed was so elite that he reached a top speed of nearly 24 miles per hour during the sprint, cementing his status as one of the fastest players to ever enter the league. And, yeah, then he had a lot of people on his heels this past combine. A lot of fast times. 4.3 is starting to be regular occurrence. But, yeah, 4.22 is just insane. 4.21's that's absolutely utter nonsense.
Unbelievable. Not a lot of responses, though, on that question. Here's the other one. March 5th, 1973, Yankees teammates shocked the world by announcing they were swapping families, including wives, kids, and even the dogs. Who were they?
I believe it's Fritz Peterson and Mike Kekich. I know I've heard this story. I know it's not Catfish and Goose, and I don't think it's Guidry and Lyle. It's definitely not Thurman Munson. I'm going to say Fritz and Mike.
Well, why would they otherwise be on there?
Yeah, exactly.
I remember both of them were pitchers. I think both of them might have been left-handed pitchers. But, Craig?
I have no earthly idea. Yeah.
Let's go with Peterson and Kekich. Here we go.
Yeah, it remains the most bizarre trade in sports history. The two pitchers announced that they had fallen in love with each other's wives and decided to simply swap lives. How do the kids feel about that? While Mike Kekich's new relationship fizzled after a few years, Fritz Peterson remained happily married to the former Mrs. Kekich for the rest of his life.
I did not know that at all.
Such a terrible idea to do.
Well, there's a show that's called, like, Swapping
Life
Wives.
Swap, yeah, Life Swap. Wow.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. What is your favorite Lou Holtz moment? Dr. Lou on ESPN in second, which I would think so. But the national title, the last one Notre Dame had at 45% wins, 9% the 78 Orange Bowl upset, and 7% the newspaper magic.
Who did they beat in the Orange Bowl upset? Arkansas.
Yeah, that's right. That was his old school.
31-6 they beat, Craig? Oklahoma.
Ah.
OU had Arkansas had some players suspended, and the Orange Bowl is a big shocker, 31-6. All right.
Okay, let's see. The other poll question, they sent me this, and I was very curious your opinion on this, Smokey. Also, maybe Craig a little bit, because he can be cantankerous. Not me, I'm joyful. You would think that I would like all the books on this list. Of the best-selling Dr. Seuss classics, both big and small, which one do you love and enjoy the most? Green Eggs and Ham dominated. Cat in the Hat at 26% in second. In third place, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish. Just a measly 4%.
A Cat in the Hat is who I voted for.
Okay.
I don't really have an opinion on this. Green Eggs and Hams, that works for me. I don't have much of a Dr. Seuss background.
I prefer of those, Oh, the Places You'll Go. It's a little more inspirational to me. But Green Eggs and Ham, I think, is a great life lesson for kids to try new things.
I miss Saturday morning cartoons and books to read like that.
I also quite enjoyed Horton Hears a Who, but that wasn't on the list.
All right. Thank you, Andrew Valet. Thank you to Garrett Ross, and also to Logan Bagessi and Brandon Rowe, who was running the mothership. Thank you, Craig and Paul. We'll be back tomorrow, and we have a really good lineup set up, and can't wait to see you again at 3 o'clock for 365 Sports. Have a great night.